Chapter 5:12. Afterwards, it was the turn of the various aristocratic families of the continent to enter. These usually arrogant descendants of aristocratic families were all very careful today. Among these hundreds of aristocratic families, there was one thing that was exactly the same. The leaders of these families were all white-haired and senile. One look, and you could tell that they were the old antiques of each aristocratic family. Such antiques naturally had profound, mysterious skills, and the second characteristic was the most important. They were very knowledgeable. Admittedly, this auction was extremely important, and it was very likely that it would affect and even change the future of Jianghu. But if they offended some people that they shouldn't offend, the consequences would be extremely serious. Therefore, it was necessary to have these old and prudent people to preside over this auction. For example, if it was the young people who entered at the beginning, they might have already rushed in. But with these people in charge, they would never do something that was strenuous and unrewarding and would offend people for no reason. The three Holy Lands were waiting there, and you, a secular family, went in first? Wasn't that courting death? After these people entered, they first went to the seats of the three Holy Lands to greet them, and then returned to their respective seats. It was orderly, and there was not the slightest bit of chaos, as if it had been arranged beforehand. Just this etiquette alone took up almost half of the morning's time. This made Jun Moxie, who was upstairs, yawn again and again. He felt very bored, and felt that if he had the time, he might as well refine some medicinal pills. When the auction time came, the door slowly closed, and the hall was suddenly plunged into darkness. In such a large hall, all the windows were closed. Everyone here was a top-notch expert, so they weren't afraid of any accidents. However, they were still a little bewildered. Suddenly, a ball of fire lit up high in the sky in the middle of the hall. Under the illumination of the fire, countless sparkling lights flashed in the countless corners of the hall. Then, they converged into a ball and actually illuminated the entire hall. Jun Moxie had cleverly used the principle of optical refraction. Using only a ball of fire and countless gems, he had successfully created a dreamy and magical environment. Although the entire hall was extremely bright, there was not the slightest bit of smoke or fire. Everyone present was experienced and knowledgeable, but they had never seen such a marvelous sight. Therefore, they clicked their tongues in amazement. This scene alone made them feel that this trip had not been made in vain. This aristocratic hall is truly a miraculous place. Its reputation is well-deserved. On the auction stage, there was a sudden dong sound. A young man in white with a faint smile on his face suddenly appeared on the stage with a small hammer in his hand. Just now, when the hammer fell, it had attracted everyone's attention to the stage. Seniors and heroes, since we're all here today, we naturally have the same goal. So, I won't say any superfluous words here. Let's not waste everyone's precious time. This youngster's body won't be able to withstand the anger of the seniors. Haha. Jun Moxie looked at the crowd of experts below the stage and made a small joke in a relaxed manner. He had wanted to liven up the atmosphere a little, but he hadn't expected that no one would respond to him. The entire hall had become frighteningly silent. He believed that anyone would be able to identify the source of the cough if someone were to cough at this moment. However, Jun Daxiao wasn't able to adapt to this situation. They're leaving this young master hanging on the stage? Could be that this group of people below were all statues. However, I reckon that the weakest among them is at least at the level of Tian Xian. Shun Xian's level of cultivation can be found everywhere. But they're almost there. 2,000 or 3,000 people had gathered together. Jun Moxie was extremely daring, but he didn't dare to rashly provoke the anger of these people. He coughed twice. Jun Daxiao secretly cursed in his heart. Each and every one of you are so untactful. This young master will make you bleed in vain if I don't make you bleed. So what if you're experts? I'm going to slaughter you experts. I'm going to slaughter you until your noses are crooked. Otherwise, I won't be called the evil monarch. I hereby announce that the special auction of the bone-tempering pills has officially begun. Jun Moxie was still smiling wholeheartedly. He then said in a clear and resonant voice, "The bone-tempering pill is a rare elixir. It was discovered by accident, but its effects are even more effective than the legends. There's a saying that goes, all talk and no action. So, it doesn't necessarily mean that this thing has an extraordinary effect. I'll take out 3 pills in order to reassure everyone. And I'll ask the experts of the 3 holy lands to try them first. Then, we'll see whether their effects are as impressive as the sellers have said. Do you believe the results of the experiments of the experts of the 3 holy lands?" June Moxie's words were quite insidious. He wasn't angry that the people hadn't responded. So, he had used this method. Well, if you don't say anything, it means that you don't believe in the 3 holy lands. Who can bear the consequences of this? Sure enough, the crowd became excited as soon as June Moxie's voice faded. The clamorous waves of energy nearly broke through the roof of the hall. "We believe. What's there to not believe? The 3 holy lands have always been the targets of our admiration. Ha! The experts of the 3 holy lands have personally tested it. How can we not believe it? It's a golden signboard. That's right." June Moxie was happy in his heart. Weren't you guys keeping silent? Damn, if this young master didn't let you open your mouths and roar a few times, how could I vent my anger just now? But his expression didn't change in the slightest. 3 white-clothed youngsters walked onto the stage. Each of them used a small jade plate to prop up a bone-tempering pill. Then, they respectfully placed it on the table of the 3 holy lands. Ning Wuqing's gaze was deep as he looked at June Moxie on the stage. June Moxie remained calm and collected. He only nodded with a faint smile. Ning Wuqing calmly pondered for a moment. Then, he used his hand to pick up the small yellow pill. It was shrouded in a halo. He couldn't believe that such a small pill could actually change the original structure of a human's bones. He pondered for a moment. Then he raised his hand and put it into his mouth. He didn't need to fear any kind of poison when his Xian skill had reached this level. No matter what kind of poison it was, he could expel it as soon as he discovered an anomaly. Therefore, he wasn't afraid of June Moxie's mischief. "I believe that no one in this world has the qualifications to cause mischief in the face of the 3 holy lands." Ma Jiangming and Huyan Shao also had the same idea, but they hesitated for a moment and then swallowed it down. Then the complexions of these 3 people changed. They were experts who had lived for countless years, and they had experienced many incidents. So, how could they be shaken by such an unforeseen event? Their expressions wouldn't change even if MT Tai were to collapse in front of them. The pill had just entered their mouths when it had completely melted in their mouths. Only their mouths were filled with fragrance. The huge power produced by the pill's melting was like a flood. It submerged into the meridians of their bodies in a split second. Then the joints of their bodies suddenly felt numb and itchy. It was accompanied by a subtle pain that arose from the depths of their hearts. In fact, it seemed as if their souls were convulsing at this moment. The 3 people endured it. They looked at each other with cold eyes. Their faces didn't change. No one wanted to lose face in front of the world's heroes. Their Xian skills were profound. Moreover, their physiques were far superior to those of ordinary people. Therefore, the feeling wasn't particularly intense. They would have cried out in pain if they had been in their place at this moment. This pain was no different from being reborn. Ning Wuqing and Ma Jiangming were able to stand steadily under the watchful eyes of everyone. Their expressions were also motionless. In fact, even the expression in their eyes hadn't fluctuated in the slightest. However, beads of sweat had already appeared on the face of Huyan Shao. He couldn't suppress the pain in his eyes, and his brows were slightly wrinkled a long while past. Suddenly, a burst of crackling sounds came from the bodies of these 3 people. It seemed as if every joint in their bodies was about to explode. Almost everyone could imagine that these 3 people were enduring an enormous pain at this moment. Ning Wuqing and Ma Jiangming forcibly suppressed the tempting thought of using their martial power to resist at this moment. Then, they attentively looked inside their bodies, and were pleasantly surprised to discover that the joints of their bones had undergone some subtle changes. They had been cultivating nonstop for the past few years, and had been fighting nonstop. so their bones had long been set in shape. Moreover, they had also aged a little. However, almost all the scars on their joints had disappeared at this moment. Moreover, their muscles and bones had also been pulled and had spontaneously adjusted to the most ideal position. Both of them felt as if they had been given a new lease of life. The pain they had felt a moment ago was indeed unbearable, but this pain was worth it. In fact, both of them believed that it would be worth it even if they had to endure this pain for 100 times in order to achieve this result. They didn't hesitate to make their choice. The formidable effects of the bone-tempering pills continued to operate in their bodies. However, they didn't doubt the miraculous effects of the bone-tempering pills anymore. They looked at June Moxie on the stage, and their eyes exposed a look of determination. In fact, their eyes even contained a trace of heartfelt gratitude. After all, these bone-tempering pills would have been given to the talented experts of a younger generation if June Moxie hadn't personally experimented with them, and they would have nurtured their strength in the future. Firstly, these two people disdained to fight for them. Secondly, they were too old, so they wouldn't have gotten a chance to fight for them even if they wanted to. However, they hadn't expected that they would have taken one of the bone-tempering pills the first time they had seen them. Both of them were super experts. So, how could they not know that such a small adjustment in the joints would have a great impact on their strength? The situation would have been completely different from before they had taken the bone-tempering pills. Their agility, speed, and power would have been enhanced again. Moreover, the extent of the enhancement would have been astonishing. However, Huyin Xiao didn't have such thoughts. He was relatively weak. He had realized that the bone-tempering pill was indeed a good thing. However, the process of its efficacy taking effect was too painful. He had exerted his entire body's strength to resist the pain. However, he was barely able to prevent himself from making a fool of himself in front of everyone. However, his clothes were already soaked in sweat. Everyone present had discerning eyes. So, how could they not see his embarrassment? The experiment had more or less come to an end. The corners of Ning Wuqing's mouth exposed a trace of satisfaction as he felt his brand-new body. He took a step forward and looked at June Moxie. He then said in a dignified manner, "Thank you very much." June Moxie faintly smiled and replied, "You're welcome." Ning Wuqing chuckled. Then he turned around and faced the crowd. He then slowly said, "I'm Ning Wuqing. I can confirm that the bone-tempering pills are effective. Moreover, the effects are unexpectedly good. It's worthy of being called a miraculous medicine. Such a miraculous medicine can seize the good fortune of the world." Chapter 513. Ma Jiangming and Huyin Xiao also said the same words at the same time. They had acknowledged the efficacy of the bone-tempering pills. The eyes of everyone in the hall brightened up for a moment. Then, everyone started to whisper to each other. It wouldn't be a big deal if one or two people were whispering to each other. But thousands of people were whispering to each other at the same time. It was as if a heavy rain was falling. In fact, it was as if thousands of snakes were crawling through the grass at the same time. Qian Sun's Serpent Queen was upstairs. She even stretched her head out to take a look. Don't tell me that my kind is having a meeting downstairs. The hall had sunk into a state of chaos. The people of the three holy lands have acknowledged this pill. In an instant, the importance of this elixir rose by several levels in everyone's hearts. The transformation from determined to get it to determined to get it at all costs had taken place in an instant. Silence. Everyone, please be quiet. June Moxie imitated the appearance of a judge on TV. He had a serious look on his face as he pounded the hammer. However, he was feeling very happy in his heart. Meanwhile, Mei Shuiyan and Qian Sun's Serpent Queen were upstairs. Their attention was focused on the people of the three holy lands. Guan Xinghan and Dugu Xiaoi each had a piece of white paper in front of them. They were ready to write something down. June Moxie had held this auction for two reasons. Firstly, he had wanted to amass a large amount of gold. He had wanted to provide a large amount of materials for his power of gold. He had wanted to prepare a divine weapon for each of his exclusive troops in the future. Secondly, his purpose was very simple. He wanted to amass wealth. He He wanted to prepare for June Moxie's palace and base in the Tion Fa forest in the future. These things could only be a pipe dream if he didn't have a frightening amount of wealth. But at this moment, his goal was obviously not limited to just these two. This auction of the bone-tempering pills was related to the future of the aristocratic families. Therefore, it was easy to tell which family had enmity with which family had a good relationship with which family could be used, and which family had to be left out of contact. This was undoubtedly a very valuable piece of information. There was another important point: Mei Shuiyan's goal. Beauty Mei needed to confirm the relationship between the three holy lands. Throughout history, these three families had never shown themselves, and no one knew what the relationship between these three families was like. No one knew where they were located and whether there had been any changes. Could they still be like before, fighting openly and covertly, but when faced with a foreign enemy, could they still unite as one again? This concerned the future of the entire continent. This plan could not be taken lightly. Therefore, June Moxie was really looking forward to this auction. The bone-tempering pill was obviously a top-notch elixir in the eyes of these people. It was a good thing that they wanted to get their hands on, even if they had to spend a lot of money. However, the bone-tempering pill couldn't be said to be a common good in June Moxie's eyes. But it wasn't necessarily that rare either. Perhaps June Dashao wouldn't have refined this thing in large quantities if it weren't for the fact that it could be exchanged for funds. Therefore, the entire hall consisted of almost half of the elites of the continent. These people would never have thought that they would come from thousands of miles away. They would spend almost all of their family's assets to buy this thing. In fact, they wouldn't even hesitate to fight openly and covertly for it. In fact, they would go bankrupt because of it. In fact, these things weren't even worth mentioning in the eyes of others. This was a huge irony. Therefore, June Moxie hadn't announced any specific rules of the auction due to the above goals. For example, he hadn't mentioned that they couldn't engage in vicious competition, deliberately raise the price, or use private means to threaten others. Now that the seller has proven the efficacy of this elixir, let the auction begin. June Moxie pounded on the table with his hammer. The entire hall became deathly silent after he had pounded the table. The seller has provided a total of 50 bone-tempering pills. There are 20 pills in each portion. In other words, it doesn't matter which family it is, as long as they can obtain one portion of the bone-tempering pills. Then, they will be able to nurture 20 powerhouses with boundless future prospects for their own family. And they will be able to ensure that they will be able to walk faster and further on the path of Xianqi cultivation in the future. Moreover, their achievements will be greater as well. For example, a genius will appear in a family, and this genius will need at least 60 years to climb up to the level of Shun Xian's achievement from his birth. But he will consume the bone-tempering pills in his childhood, and that time will be compressed to 40 years or even shorter. So, there will be a gap of at least 20 years between him and someone who hasn't consumed the bone-tempering pills. So, everyone should understand what this gap represents. June Moxie's extremely bewitching words made the already oppressive atmosphere in the hall even more solemn. Everyone had a heavy expression on their faces. They were pondering over the true meaning behind June Moxie's words. What does a gap of 20 years represent? It means that you might still be struggling at the level of Yuxian, while others are at the level of Tianxian. Everyone shuddered with fear as they thought of this. Doesn't this mean that the families who have obtained the bone-tempering pills will be able to exterminate the families who haven't obtained the bone-tempering pills in the near future? It will be effortless for them to do so, creating 20 experts in one fell swoop. Almost everyone's eyes had turned red, except for the people of the three holy lands. There are only 50 portions in total, so it can be foreseen that the people of the three holy lands will take at least one portion, or even more. However, there are still 600 families left. There are only 600 families left. More than 600 families are competing for a mere 40 portions. This is a cruel ratio. Third young Master June. There are only 50 portions of the bone-tempering pills in this auction. Isn't this too little? Someone raised an objection. The one who stood up first was a white-haired old man with an extraordinary bearing. He stood up from his seat in the middle and said, "There are over 600 of us now, but you're only taking out 50 medicinal pills to auction. This is a little too unfair for most of the aristocratic families." As soon as he opened his mouth to speak, everyone immediately responded one after another. It was as if they were going to gang up on him. After all, who wouldn't want a heaven-defying treasure like the bone-tempering pill? Who wouldn't want their own clan to stand proudly at the peak of the continent and be looked up to by everyone in the world? He commanded the Jianghu, and no one disobeyed him. He ruled over the world, and no one dared to challenge him. Silence. June Moxie knocked on the table. "Old man, may I know your name?" The old man who had been the first to stand up and question him was startled for a moment. This old man is Zhao Banfeng from Feng City's Zhao family. This old man had doubted you a moment ago. Admittedly, it was out of selfishness, but it was also for the sake of the public. In any case, I didn't mean to disrespect the aristocratic hall or the June family. In fact, I didn't even have the slightest bit of malice towards them. Zhao Banfeng's words were neither servile nor overbearing. In fact, they were very appropriate. In fact, he had made his position clear. In fact, this old man had broken into a cold sweat as soon as he had spoken. After all, the June family and the aristocratic hall weren't existences that ordinary families could afford to provoke. So, he had taken the initiative to stand up for them. But it would be better if he didn't incur any enmity with the aristocratic hall. In fact, it was highly likely that June Dashao would have flared up if June Moxie had gotten angry for a moment, and he would have expelled him for disturbing the order of the meeting. Moreover, nobody would have interceded on his behalf. After all, one less family meant one less competitor. If that were to happen, he would have completely lost everything. June Dashao smiled faintly. "Old man Zhao, you don't need to worry. The aristocratic hall is a reasonable place. So, we won't offend our guests for no reason. But, old man, you've mentioned the problem of the Buddhist monks, and you've provoked many different opinions. So, I have another question to ask old man, and I hope that old man can answer it." "I wouldn't dare. Please enlighten me, Lord June's son Xiao," Zhao Banfeng replied. "May I ask, old man, if you've ever taken a miraculous medicine like the bone-tempering pill before today?" Zhu Moxie asked. How could this old man have had the great opportunity to take a miraculous medicine like this? In fact, I've never even heard of it. This is a legendary miraculous medicine, and this old man would have had some doubts if it hadn't been verified by the seniors of the three holy lands, Zhao Banfeng replied. Then, old man, have you ever heard of anyone who could refine such a medicine? June Moxie asked. I've never heard of such a miraculous medicine. How can it be seen so often? Zhao Banfeng replied again. That's right. Such a miraculous medicine is rarely sought after in this world. So, wouldn't it become a common commodity if everyone could get their hands on it? And that would be a big joke. Jun Dashao chuckled and said. Then, he raised his finger. Everyone, please pay attention. Our aristocratic hall is an auction house. It's not a place to buy and sell things. Most of the precious items are only available at one time, but there are still hundreds of people competing over them. What's wrong with that? Is it really surprising? The highest bidder wins. This is the rule of the auction house. You can only look on helplessly as someone else buys it if you don't have enough money. This is because you don't have enough strength. So what's it to complain about? It's only natural that your family will be exterminated by someone else in the future. Is there a need to argue about this? There was no movement from the audience. That's right. This is the rule of the auction house. How can you buy something good if you don't have money? Let's not talk about anything else. Our aristocratic hall will use this as a gimmick to hold a grand auction, and I believe that it will bring even greater benefits. Our aristocratic hall is kind and honest, so we've opened this exclusive auction house. Moreover, we've done our best to distribute the pills. We've taken everyone's purchasing power into consideration, so we've divided it into 50 portions. June Moxie's eyes narrowed. I'll simply hold a one-off auction if everyone isn't satisfied. There's only one portion, and the highest bidder wins. Those who have the strength will certainly agree. So, does everyone agree? June Moxie's words could be said to have scratched an itch. Who among the thousands of people present would admit that they didn't have the strength? Suddenly, everyone opened their mouths and started to speak. That's right. This is an auction house. It's not a charity house. How can everyone have a portion of such a divine item? What kind of logic is this? That's right. Old Zhao, don't say anything if your family can't afford it. Someone else will buy it. You don't need to worry about it. Haha, that's right. You don't have gold. So what's the point of holding a maggot like a big tail? I'm not afraid of a big one. The bigger the better. Chapter 514. There was a hubbub of voices. Elder Zhao Bonfeng's lips trembled for a while as he looked angrily at the crowd. He suddenly realized that a few of them were the ones who had been inciting him to speak. Weren't they King, putting him on a rack to roast? And they're old friends of mine for so many years. He couldn't help but get angry. His lips trembled as he said, You guys. Good. The Zhao clan isn't considered a big clan, but we can still afford the price of a single pill. Let's wait and see. Those people who had ridiculed him at the beginning were obviously enemies of a Zhao clan. Perhaps they had a grudge against the Zhao clan. But everyone could see this point clearly. Upstairs, Mei Xian lightly swept a glance downstairs. Then, she insipidly said, Record the first file. The Zhao clan has an old grudge against the Ma clan, the Jiang clan, and the Wu clan. Moreover, the Sun clan, the Qian clan, and the other clans also seem to be on good terms with each other, but are at odds with each other in reality. So it's easy to sow discord. Sort out the information after you go back, and eliminate these clans. If something happens in the future, they will either help or sow discord. File them separately. Guan Qinghan's pen moved as if it was flying. She clearly and accurately recorded the first information of this auction. June Moxie calmly sat on the auction stage as he observed the reactions of the clans with cold eyes. He believed that his previous words had thoroughly aroused the enthusiasm of this auction. Only by successfully creating a lively atmosphere of no choice but to bid can this young master fish up a lot of money. The importance of the pills has been elevated to the life and death of each clan. This is the evil monarch's way of doing things. Of course, not everyone will believe him, but it doesn't matter. It's enough as long as there's a trace of doubt. This young master doesn't want you all to believe him. One must know that one mustn't have the intention to harm others, but one mustn't have the heart to guard against others. These clans will fight for a bone-tempering pill, even if it's to protect themselves. Who can guarantee that their descendants won't have any enemies when they travel to Jianghu? Isn't that nonsense? Therefore, June Moxie struck while the iron was hot and threw out a bone. The first round of the auction will begin. The first bone-tempering pill, 20 pills. The starting price is 100,000 gold taels. June Moxie shouted, Seniors, please start the bidding. The highest bidder wins. It's fair and just fair and honest. Good quality and low price. Everyone, it's better to be on time than to be on time. And it's better to be on time than to be on time. Let's see who gets the first shot today. Jun Daxiao's words were basically the words of a flyover juggler. Suddenly, the whole place fell silent. Everyone's eyes were on the first row, the attitude of the three holy lands. What he meant was, hurry up and settle your stuff so that we can go all out and bid. Ning Wuqing smiled and was about to say something, but he heard a gloomy voice. Great Golden City bids 100,000 gold. Does anyone dare to snatch it? June Moxie was so angry that his nose almost became crooked. Bah, what kind of bullsh asterisk tea is this? Wasn't this daylight robbery? The starting price was 100,000 taels of silver. Not only did you bid 100,000 taels of silver, you even added a does anyone dare to fight for it? As a person, you couldn't be so shameless. And I even gave you one for free just now. Most of the people in the hall also had an unhappy look on their faces. But no one made a sound. June Moxie was speechless for a while. Then he helplessly asked, Great Golden City bids 100,000 gold. Does anyone want to increase the price? Does anyone want to increase the price? 100,000 gold going once, 100,000 gold going twice. If no one wants to increase the price, 100,000 gold going thrice deal. Wait, Ning Wuqing's complexion sank. He raised his eyes and said in a heavy tone, Hermitage bids 100,001 taels. Only one tael was added. This was undoubtedly a resounding slap in the face of the great golden city, especially when Ma Jiangming had said, Does anyone dare to fight for it? In a disdainful tone. It would have been fine if the bidding had started immediately after this sentence. In fact, it would have looked like they were evenly matched. However, Ning Wuqing had intercepted the deal at the last moment. What did this mean? Moreover, he had only increased the price by one tael. It would have looked like a fair competition if he had increased the price by a lot. But he had only increased the price by one tael. This was clearly a humiliation. The entire hall was in an uproar. They hadn't expected that such a subtle and unexpected situation would occur in the first round. Upstairs, Mei Shuiyan sighed softly. Her expression became even more anxious as she said, Record the conflict between Hermitage and the great golden city. It has already reached the point where they are as incompatible as fire and water. So, we must choose carefully when dealing with these two forces. No one is allowed to act blindly without thinking if there's any movement. Dugu Xiaoyi complied. Then, her pen moved like a dragon and a snake, and she quickly recorded the information. The person who recorded this confidential information and then organized it was Jun Moxie's most trusted person. He obviously trusted Jun Zhantian and Jun Wui. However, it wasn't appropriate for them to show their faces in this situation. With the strength of the people in the lobby, they could easily distinguish whether the person upstairs was a man or a woman, even if Dugu Xiaoyi and the others were hiding upstairs. Perhaps only Mei Shuiyan hadn't been discovered by the people present. Even the aura of the Qian Sun Serpent Queen was being monitored by Ning Wuqing and Ma Jiangming. Ma Jiangming's complexion changed. He snorted and said, Old Ning, do you really want to play like this? Ning Wuqing laughed. Then he said in a cold and solemn manner, This old man just doesn't like it. The starting price has already been set at 100,000 taels of gold, but you're still suppressing the price, and you're still threatening them. Who would dare to open their doors and do business if everyone behaved like you? Ma Jiangming, you were the one in the wrong first. You have the nerve to call yourself a senior expert from the three holy lands. You may be shameless, but this old man can't afford to lose face like this. Ma Jiangming snorted in a gloomy manner and said, In that case, the great golden city bids 300,000 taels of gold. Ning Wuqing, do you still want to compete? Ning Wuqing's complexion changed. He said, Ma Jiangming, are you trying to provoke me? Ma Jiangming didn't reply. Instead, he looked at Chu Yang's complexion. Ning Wuqing smiled lang-lang and said, Since you've taken the initiative to increase the price, this price of 300,000 taels of gold can be considered passable. This old man naturally doesn't feel like making things difficult for you. The first batch of pills had finally been successfully auctioned, and the starting price had been raised to 300,000 taels of gold under Ning Wuqing's provocation. The first batch of pills could be considered as a good start. It was tantamount to raising the starting price of the pills to 300,000 taels. Even the great golden city, one of the three holy lands, had bid 300,000 taels of gold. So, wouldn't the other clans look down on the great golden city if they were to purchase the pills at a lower price? Therefore, almost everyone sucked in a mouthful of cold air after they saw this scene. The second batch and the third batch didn't have any objections either. So, they were won by Hermitage and the illusory ocean of blood respectively, and they were sold at a sky-high price of 300,000 taels of gold. Ning Wuqing ferociously glared at Ma Jiangming when he had announced this number. It was obvious that Ma Jiangming had bid 300,000 taels of gold for a reason. You won't let me take advantage of you, so I won't let you have a good time either. However, Huyan Xiao looked very relaxed. In fact, it seemed as if he had only thrown out 30 taels of silver. Obviously, there's a reason for this. The huge amount of gold that had been spent had basically belonged to the Huang clan. The young Lord Huyin had sold off the entire Huang clan's property after he had confirmed Huang Taiyang's death. In fact, he had even ransacked the Huang clan's treasury. In fact, he had even mortgaged the Huang clan's residence. The faces of the buyers and the sellers had turned pale. The sellers had obviously been forced to buy the pills. And the buyers weren't necessarily willing either. Only the young Lord Huyin Shao was the middleman. However, he was flushed with success. In fact, he had pocketed everything. Huyin Shao was quite proficient in this kind of business without any capital. However, the young lord didn't care about the mentality of both the buyers and the sellers. The first round of the auction had come to an end at this point. Each of the 3 holy lands had sent one person to hand over the gold and the pills. The method of this auction was very special. So, a large amount of gold and silver had been required for the handover. So, this included the work of counting the amount of gold. And Jun Daxiao had already made arrangements for this work. If this job wasn't done by Fatty, who else could it be? Jun Moxie had only sent 8 assistants to Fatty for that mountain of gold. Moreover, he had given a clear warning to Fatty. The amount of gold must be thoroughly checked. Tang Yuan, you won't get a single cent of your shares, even if it's 1% less. Tang Yuan had prepared a big pot of pork trotters to replenish his physical strength at any time. However, the situation didn't look very optimistic. After all, the first round had come to an end, and 1/3 of that big pot of pork trotters had already disappeared. Fatty hadn't expected that the notice he had issued had mentioned that he wouldn't accept any silver or gold notes. Instead, he would use gold. In fact, he had deliberately done this to Jun Moxie in order to help him lose weight. Fatty would have cried if he had known about this. That was because Jun Moxie had only said it, and the specific implementation had been carried out by Fatty on his own. This was like lifting a rock and smashing it on his own feet. Moreover, it had smashed very hard. It was reckoned that Fatty's weight would have decreased by a considerable amount after the gold had been processed. The auction for the 4th batch of elixirs began. Everyone straightened their backs and pricked up their ears. The 3 holy lands weren't involved anymore. So, the secular aristocratic families had begun to compete with each other. The 4th batch of elixirs has 20 pills. The base price is still 100,000 gold taels. Moreover, each bid cannot be lower than 10,000 gold taels. Jun Moxie had barely finished his opening remarks when someone made a bid. River East Wei clan bids 350,000 gold taels. The voice belonged to a middle-aged man. Ning Wuqing and Huyin Shao tilted their heads and frowned. Ma Jiangming remained expressionless. This River East Wei clan was the first to make a bid. They didn't necessarily want to win this round of elixirs. However, they had genuinely flattered Ma Jiangming. Moreover, they had done it in front of the other 2 holy lands. Upstairs, Mei Shuin issued an order in a sinking voice. River East Wei clan will be included in the Great Golden City's list of die-hard supporters from now on. They won't be able to change their allegiance after today's matter. Therefore, we can confirm it now. Chapter 515. Suddenly, a loud voice rang out. The Sikong family bids 500,000 taels. Jun Moxie felt that the voice was familiar. He looked towards the source of the voice and found that it was an old acquaintance of his, Sikong and Yi, the head of the Sikong family. Sikong and Yi smiled slightly when he saw Jun Moxie look over. This guy was a shill. Jun Moxie had arranged this beforehand. There was no need for a shill in this situation. However, Sikong and Yi wasn't willing to be left out. He opened his mouth and raised the price from 350,000 taels to 500,000 taels. The man surnamed Wei looked over in a flustered and exasperated manner. Little Sikong, do you have so much gold? Don't randomly raise the price. Sikong and Yi snorted and said, I don't need your Jiangdong's Wei family to worry about it. Shut up if you don't have the money. Jun Moxie heard this and realized that these 2 families also had some enmity. Mei Shuiyan had already arranged for Guan Qinghan to note down the names. Especially on the words Sikong clan, there was an important symbol. The Sikong family was one of the Jun family's most loyal allies. So, how could they not pay more attention to them? More people started to bid. The flat-top Guan family bids 520,000 taels. The Southwest Liu family bids 530,000 taels. The Northeast Xinyu family bids 600,000 taels. Xikong and Yi and the Wei family's men sat down one after the other as the other families competed to bid. In addition, most of the families were sitting still. This was only the fourth batch of 50, so there was no need to rush. However, there were also many people who had started earlier. The sooner they got their hands on it, the more at ease they would feel. Jun Moxie's saliva splattered everywhere as he jumped up and down. He was constantly adding oil to the fire on the stage. The whole scene was in full swing. Is there anyone else who wants to increase the price? Is there anyone else? It's 600,000 taels now. 600,000 taels going once. Oh, there's a friend over there who has raised his sign. It seems that he's stronger than I expected. He made a bid, and, as expected, 650,000 taels, 650,000 taels, going once. Yes, that brother over there made a bid of 680,000 taels, 680,000 taels. There were only so many bone-tempering pills left in the world at present. The herbs used to refine these pills were all rare elixirs. So, he might not be able to find another shop if he were to miss this opportunity. The friend over there bid 700,000 taels. Everyone was smart. What is a little bit of gold to them? The family's future was the most important. Today's hard work would definitely be exchanged for glory in the future. Today's sacrifice would definitely lead to the fall of the enemy and the rise of the family. Yes, the friend over there. What? Wow. 800,000 taels. 800,000 silver going once. 800,000 taels of gold. This amount was very shocking, but if everyone thought about it, what was 800,000 taels of gold for the sake of the clan's prosperity? 800,000 going once. Jun Moxie's saliva splattered in all directions. He had almost finished everything in one go. But he couldn't go up by the time the price reached 800,000 taels of gold. After all, this was 800,000 taels of gold, not 80 pieces of dirt. This was a terrifyingly astronomical figure. Jun Moxie repeated, 800,000 going twice 5, or 6 times with a dry mouth. Then, he finally dropped the hammer in disappointment. 800,000 going thrice soul, only 800,000 taels of gold. This is a genuine and rare elixir. This is a rare elixir that can transform a Xian expert's body. And it's only sold for such a small amount of money? Is there any justice in this world? Bah, a bunch of country bumpkins and country bumpkins who haven't seen the world. If I had known this earlier, I would have set the base price higher. Jun Moxie and Jun Dashao continued to mutter in their hearts. They were obviously still somewhat dissatisfied with the closing price a moment ago. However, the aristocratic families below were already somewhat dumbfounded. The fourth elixir had been sold for 800,000 taels of gold. A sky-high price. An absolutely sky-high price. This wasn't 800,000 taels of silver, and it wasn't 80 copper coins either. Most of these aristocratic families had a long history. Naturally, they could take out several 100,000 taels of gold, just like the Huang family. However, it would still damage their foundation. Well, the other aristocratic families would suffer a great deal of damage, but the Huang family would directly go bankrupt. If it wasn't for the family's future, who would be willing to use up to 800,000 taels of gold to exchange for a mere 20 elixirs? On average, one elixir would cost 40,000 taels of gold. Calculating like this, almost everyone's scalp was about to explode. When they looked at the buyer, it was an old man with a gloomy face. The old man's hair was white like silver, and his eyes were sharp. Although his face was somewhat gloomy, the corners of his mouth revealed a trace of gratification. It's the head of the Gongsun family, Gongsun Ju Dao. Someone whispered the name of the person who had taken out 800,000 taels of gold to exchange for 20 elixirs. Everyone's heart trembled. So it was him. This old man was famous for his foresight. It seemed that the rumor was wrong. He had used such a large amount of gold to buy 20 elixirs, and he still had a face of gratification. If he wasn't stupid, then what was? Hearing about him in person was not as good as hearing about him in person. Sure enough, Hearing about him in person is better than hearing about him in person. I've long heard that the head of the Gongsun family, Gongsun Dao, is very far-sighted. The Gongsun family has been carried forward in his hands. Within 30 years, the Gongsun family has been promoted from a third-rate aristocratic family to a first-rate aristocratic family. His reputation is well-deserved. He is really far-sighted. Record that the head of the Gongsun family, Gongsun Dao, is far-sighted, courageous, and scheming. He is worth recruiting. Mei Shuiyan made the above comment. Du Xiaoyi's pen moved quickly, and she recorded it immediately. On the stage, Jun Moxie, who still hadn't had enough, had already taken out the fifth elixir. He was shouting at the top of his voice. Everyone, the past is the past. Glory should be created by everyone together. The future of the family is in your mouth. What are you waiting for? You will be the hero of the family as long as you bring these 20 elixirs home. Everyone's contributions will be indispensable on the rise of the family tomorrow. You will be remembered and respected by your descendants for generations to come. Moreover, this bone-tempering pill is a rare elixir. It's truly an unprecedented elixir. It has a great potential for appreciation. You can spend some gold to buy it today. Then, you'll be able to earn several times the price in a few days. In fact, you might even be able to earn tens of times the price. Now, the fifth elixir had been auctioned. The price was still the same. Now, let's invite all the 8 immortals to cross the sea. Let's see who will be the winner in the end. Jun Moxie hadn't paid attention. He had actually forgotten that this world didn't have the legend of the 8 immortals crossing the sea. However, the audience didn't care about this. They didn't care about the story or the potential for appreciation. These elixirs were for the future experts of the family. It would be a sin to waste even a single one. So, how could they talk about reselling them? Therefore, no one took Jun Daxiao's words to heart. They raised their paddles one after another and bid for the elixirs. Suddenly, the atmosphere was unprecedentedly warm. Many people hadn't imagined that the bone-tempering pill would be sold at an outrageous price in the future. After all, the evil monarch hadn't appeared in this world for many years. But these few elixirs would be sold at a sky-high price of at least 3 million taels of gold if they were to appear in the auction house. Only one elixir was sold at such a high price. Therefore, Jun Daxiao wasn't joking when he said that this elixir had a great potential for appreciation. However, this was a fact. Of course, this was a story to be told later. Unexpectedly, other than the fourth set of medicinal pills which was sold for 800,000 taels of gold, the subsequent deals were all sold for much higher prices. The lowest price was sold for 850,000 taels of gold. The atmosphere in the auction house became more and more heated as the elixirs were sold one by one. Upstairs, Guan Qinghan and Du Xiaoyi were writing rapidly under the guidance of Mei Shuiyan's judgment, analysis, and planning. They had already written down a thick pile of paper. The information was getting more and more specific. The targets were also getting clearer and clearer. The lineup of the clans was gradually coming to the surface. The Qiansun Serpent Queen had assumed the role of secretary to the big venerable Mei Shuiyan in the Tianfa forest. She had sorted and summarized the information. She had also made some small labels, so she could look for whatever she wanted. The bone-tempering pill had already been recognized by everyone. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was closely related to the future of each clan. Therefore, everyone was displaying their remarkable abilities. If an enemy of one's clan was competing for it, then they would raise the price with a loud rumble. It would be best if they could win it, but they would make the enemy pay a little more even if they couldn't win it. After all, they weren't spending their own money. It didn't matter if they were young or old. Everyone swarmed into the fray under such a strange atmosphere. Everyone's eyes were getting redder and redder. The competition was getting more and more intense. A quarrel had gradually appeared. Then it had turned into verbal abuse. Then it had almost developed into a brawl on the spot. If the people of the 3 holy lands weren't here to keep watch, then this place would have turned into a slaughterhouse of blood and flesh in an instant. No one left the auction house. It didn't matter if they had been photographed or not. That was because everyone wanted to see which family would get the 50 elixirs in the end. And this clan would be treated with special attention by everyone. They would be specially sorted out and archived. This included the young talents of the younger generation. They would be placed in the scope of observation by some people. They could be allies in the future, but they could also be murderers who would exterminate their clans in the future. Who would dare to relax their vigilance? Therefore, the number of people in the auction house didn't decrease. Moreover, the atmosphere was getting more and more intense. Such a simple auction had only sold 12 elixirs by lunchtime. This kind of speed was comparable to a snail. But the people were still enjoying it. Onlookers, heckling, watching the excitement, opposing each other, threatening each other, exposing each other's shortcomings. It was as if the entire continent's grievances were concentrated here. But the two ladies, Guan Qinghan and Dugu Xiaoi, were exhausted. Sorting out these precious materials was a huge amount of work. At this time, the two ladies were somewhat envious of Tang Yuan. That guy only had to move the gold. It was so easy, unlike here, where the writing brush couldn't keep up with the speed of talking. Moreover, there were 500 to 600 people talking down there, and they had to sort out the useful information. Then, they had to summarize it. This was a job that required a lot of brain power. If it wasn't for Mei Shuyin summarizing from the side, the two ladies would have collapsed by now. The mental pressure was too great. This information would determine the future direction of the Jun family. If there was even the slightest mistake, then they might become enemies in the future. Who could bear the consequences of that? Even though it was winter, the two ladies were already drenched in sweat. The worry on Mei Shuyin's beautiful face became more and more obvious. This is not the chargeable word count. 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 Chapter 516. At first glance, just based on the thousands of people below, it was a powerful force to a considerable extent. If these people could work together, then there was no doubt that even one of the 3 holy lands might not be a match for them. Even though Supreme Being experts or experts above the Supreme Being level were extremely powerful, and ordinary people couldn't fight against them, they were still humans in the end. They could get tired, they could run out of stamina, and they could even die. If the various aristocratic families in front of them could really work together with sincerity and fight against the experts of the 3 holy lands regardless of the price, even the strongest expert would have to submit to them. But the relationship between these people was so complicated that it gave the venerable Mei a big headache. There weren't many families that didn't have any grudges. Most of the families seemed to be stuck in a big swamp, and there was no way for them to get out. Some of them even involved grudges from hundreds of years ago. But now they're bringing it up. Please, this is just an auction. Why are they bringing up all these old things? Isn't it tiring? These are grudges from 400 or 500 years ago. Mother Asterisker, 1 or 2 of the people involved have already turned to dust. What's there to argue about? So Mei Shuyin didn't understand. But it didn't matter. Instead, it was very useful for gathering information. So while Mei Shuyin was worried, she was also urging Guan Qinghan and Dugu Xiaoi to speed up the work. What made Guan Qinghan and Dugu Xiaoi speechless was that their wrists and fingers were already numb from exhaustion. But as long as Mei Shuyin simply transferred some of her energy into them, they would be able to continue working normally. But Mei Shuyin didn't care about the exhaustion in her heart. Dugu and Guan Qinghan were proud daughters of heaven, and they had been loved by the elders of their families for a long time. They had never been treated like this before. But Mei Shuyin was showing her special characteristics at this time. She was bossy and decisive. The tyrannical aura emitted from his body caused others to be unable to refute and could only obediently obey. On this point, even Guan Qinghan and Dugu Xiaoi were puzzled. The two women were used to seeing big shots. In fact, they had even seen the emperor of the Tian-Xiang Empire many times. As for the ministers, they had seen countless of them. The mighty and tyrannical Dugu Zongheng and Dugu Wudi, the murderous Jun Tian and Jun Wui. No one had ever been able to give them such pressure. How could a weak girl like Mei Shuyan create such a suffocating pressure? Even His Majesty, the Emperor, was not as powerful as Mei Shuyan's natural aura. What was the background of this big sister Mei? He actually had this kind of bearing. The two women were puzzled, but their hands did not stop moving. Their hearts were tired, but their hands did not stop moving. However, it was not entirely because of Mei Shuyan. This matter was related to their sweetheart Jun Moxie's future plans. So, they had to persevere no matter how tired they were. In fact, they did not know that Mei Shuyan's natural bearing was the result of commanding millions of Xian beasts in the Tianfa forest. Even when facing the lords of the three holy lands, Mei Shuyan would do as she should. She would scold them as she should scold them. She would not swallow her anger, nor would she submit to others. How could the ruler of a small country compare to this temperament of a leader who had been at the peak for a long time? It was like the difference between heaven and earth. Like the difference between heaven and earth. It was finally time for lunch. Jun Moxie heaved a sigh of relief on the stage. His throat was almost emitting smoke, but his spirit was still very excited. No matter who it was, anyone who had earned so much gold in one day would be more excited than Jun Moxie. Perhaps he would suffer a stroke or a heart attack on the spot. In just the first 12 auctions, the fourth auction had reached 800,000 taels of gold. The fifth auction had reached 850,000 taels of gold, and by the sixth auction, the price had suddenly shot up to 1 million taels of gold. Then, it continued to climb, and by the 12th auction, the price had already reached 1,200,000 taels of gold. In other words, these 12 bottles of pills had helped Jun Mo Xie amass a sky-high price of 10 million taels of gold. This was gold, ah? On that day, the Dugu brothers had fallen into the eldest young master's trap and ended up owing a debt of 90 million taels of silver. This debt had nearly caused the Dugu family to collapse. The amount was astonishing, but it was only in terms of silver. If it were to be converted into gold, then it would only amount to 900,000 taels of gold. However, this 900,000 taels of gold was equivalent to the military expenditure of the Tian-Xiang Empire, the continent's #1 military power, for 3 years. If this more than 10 million gold were to be converted to RMB, then 1 tael would be equivalent to 50 grams, and 1 gram would be equivalent to 300 yuan. So, 1 tael would be equivalent to 15,000 yuan. 10 million gold multiplied by 15,000 yuan. That was a total of 150 billion. What kind of terrifying astronomical figure was this? One wouldn't have known if one didn't calculate, but one would have jumped in fright. If I can earn as much money as Jun Moxie has earned in this morning, then I'll be able to smile in the underworld. I'll be able to face my ancestors with a straight back and say, I'm a tycoon. Guan Xinghan and Dugu Xiaoyi put down their pens. They only had enough time to catch their breaths. Then they were shocked to find that all the strength in their bodies had been sucked away along with the pens. Their bodies suddenly went limp and they collapsed to the ground. Apart from blinking their eyes, they felt as if their bodies were floating in the clouds. This situation had startled Jun Moxie, who had just come up to drink some water. He didn't have time to drink water and hastily channeled the purest heaven and earth aura into each of them. This aura couldn't be mentioned in the same breath as the great beauty's Zhu Mei's. It was purer, sharper, and more effective. In fact, the two women's condition had been completely restored. This act of kindness left the two women grumbling incessantly. It's too fast. We don't even have time to rest. It's not our bodies that are tired. It's our hearts that are tired. Therefore, they seized the time to arrange the meals for these people. The entire Tianxiang city's restaurants and hotels were full that morning. They had been booked by the Jun family so that these people could eat and drink to their heart's content. All the expenses had been charged to the aristocratic hall's account. Any one of these people was a god of wealth. So, they couldn't be neglected. June Moxie's Heaven Destroyer and Spirit Devourer had played the role of a guide for the day. Each of them had brought a large group of people to eat. Delicacies from land and sea were provided to fill their stomachs, and so on. All the restaurants and hotels of Tianxiang City had made a huge windfall on this day. This day would be known as the most luxurious day in the entire Tianxiang City. As for June Moxie, he had arranged a grand banquet in the aristocratic hall and had invited the people of the three holy lands. He had to give these people face. So, he didn't dare to casually dismiss them. He reckoned that the people of these three families would fly into a rage if they were allowed to eat outside like the other aristocratic families. These people want to find trouble with my family at this time, but they can't find it. So, how can I give them an excuse? Therefore, Jun Daxiao had been very attentive to his hospitality. He had eaten a lot more luxurious food than outside, but it wasn't inferior in any way. Naturally, the Qiansun Serpent Queen had been very indignant when Jun Moxie had brought out the snake soup that he had prepared beforehand. So, she had ferociously kicked Jun Daxiao's buttocks a few times. Jun Daxiao was battered and exhausted. He forced a smile and explained repeatedly, "These are farmed." He farmed. Jun Daxiao had occupied a table alone with the Qiansun Serpent Queen, Mei Xuan, Guanqing Han, and Duga Xiaoi. Bear Shan Shan and Earthcracker didn't want to sit at the table no matter what. So, they were dragged to the table by Jun Moxie with great difficulty. But they were glared at by Mei Xuyan and returned to their seats. So, they had no choice but to open another table with Hai Chunfeng and Song Shang. As for Tang Daxiao, he was still gasping for breath as he counted the gold. It was said that this lord's miser had reached a frightening level. He had fainted twice just from counting the gold, and he still hadn't rested. His sweat was flowing like a small river, but he still hadn't fainted. An ordinary person would have become numb after seeing so much gold, no matter how much they love money as much as their life. However, Tang Yuan Daxiao's eyes were still glittering with a golden light. His belly was full of money-grubber plans. He was in high spirits. Sun Xiaomei felt distressed when she saw this. She wanted to go over and stop him. It's good to rest a little. But she was glared at by Jun Moxie and said, "You don't want him to lose weight, do you? This is a good idea that I came up with great difficulty. Only by reducing his weight can we carry out the next step. He's fat to this extent now. So, it's useless to practice martial arts. He won't be able to reduce his weight if he doesn't tire himself out this time." Sun Xiaomei was distressed, but she resisted the urge to persuade him. In fact, Fatty Tang wouldn't listen even if she tried to persuade him. Out of concern, Sun Xiaomei went over and asked, "Fatty, are you tired?" In the end, young Master Tang, who was completely engrossed in gold, opened his mouth wide and sweated profusely. His eyes, which were filled with dazzling golden light, actually didn't see who was speaking. He straightened his neck and said, "Tired? Tired? So much gold and you're still tired? It's all money. They're all beauties. In the future, when I take a concubine or a wife, I'll have to use it." Take a concubine or a wife. Miss Sun's eyes widened. She couldn't believe her ears. This guy is actually thinking about this now? Then, Miss Sun turned around and left angrily. She only left one sentence: "Go to hell. You can spend the rest of your life with your gold. I think I'll just tire you to death today. That way, you won't have to piss me off in the future. How can I tire myself to death? Even if I die, I'll die happily." Tang Yuan rolled his eyes and replied subconsciously. Then, he fell into the great happiness and extreme excitement of counting gold. Poor Fatty. He was so happy and greedy that he didn't realize that he had caused a disaster. A huge disaster. Chapter 517. Jun Moxie drank a pot of aged wine to his heart's content. Then, he wolfed down the food to his heart's content. Finally, he regained his spirit. He began to eat all kinds of dishes in a leisurely manner. At the same time, he eagerly served the dishes to the four beauties. "Miss May, come try this. This is good stuff. It can nourish the yin and nourish the kidneys. It can also beautify your face. You don't need this, But why would a woman mind being more outstanding? Isn't that right? Qinghan, come and eat this. It can replenish your blood. Your face has been pale for the past few days. It's really making my heart ache. Xiao Yi, come and eat this. It's very delicious. Try chewing it. Doesn't it taste better the more you chew it? Haha, it's mixed with my secret recipe. The taste is different from the others. Qian Sun, don't just eat vegetables. Come and try this snake stew. It's so delicious. It melts in your mouth. It's really a rare delicacy. June Moxie, if you want to die, then just say it. I'll fulfill your wish. Qian Sun Serpent Queen was so angry that her nose was almost crooked. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. This guy actually made me, the Snake King, eat snake meat. Could he be any more shameless? Are you still not satisfied? It's my fault. Hee hee, Miss Qian Sun, these little snakes naturally can't enter your eyes. Next time, I'll definitely do my best to catch a Snake King and stew it for you. June Moxie continued to tease her recklessly. Seeing that Qian Sun Serpent Queen was about to explode, Mei Shuiyan snorted and looked at June Moxie. Shut up. June Moxie's words stopped abruptly. He ate in silence. We can't afford to offend this person. She's too ferocious. Finally, he finished his meal. There was still some time left. June Moxie rolled his eyes and said, Since I'm here, I'll tell you guys a story. June M.O. said didn't care whether the four women agreed or not after he finished speaking. Instead, he opened his big mouth and started to tell a story. This time, young Master June was telling the story of the legend of the white snake. Naturally, it was different from the traditional version of the legend of the white snake. In his mouth, these two snakes, one white snake and one green snake, were both profound beasts. Moreover, they were beast kings and supreme-level powerhouses, the story of the legend of the white snake. June Moxie's story was full of ups and downs. It was very captivating. Even Qian Sun's Serpent Queen, who thought he was teasing her at first, was fascinated. When she heard that the white snake had given birth to a son for Su Xian, Qian Sun's Serpent Queen held her cheeks and blushed. Suddenly she asked that the white snake gave birth to a baby or an egg. This seems to be a baby. June Moxie rubbed his chin and said thoughtfully, but this is actually impossible to verify. Unless there's a mystical beast supreme snake king who can take human form marrying a man of the mortal world. Then we should be able to understand. Qian Sun's Serpent Queen grabbed the teapot on the table and was about to throw it at his face. Everyone burst into laughter. Don't interrupt. Hurry up and continue. What happened next? Mei Shuiyan urged hurriedly. The leader of Tian Fa was so fascinated by the story that she even interfered and urged loudly. Fa Hai was a great scholar, and finally he locked the white snake under the 6 and 6 pagoda. June Moxie continued hurriedly and said, Unless the West Lake dries up and the Leifeng pagoda collapses, the Beast King will never be able to come out. The bottom of the West Lake goes straight to the sea. When will it dry up? And the Leifeng pagoda is made of copper. It has stood in the human world for thousands of years. Its foundation is extremely solid. It was even built by an immortal himself. How could it collapse? So this so-called condition is just a deception. When June Moxie said this, everyone sighed together. Qian Sun's Serpent Queen felt the same. Her eyes turned red. Dugu Xiaoyi's tears fell down. She sobbed and said, What should we do? Then she will never be able to come out. Poor white snake. Oh, so poor. How about predicting the future? Listen to the next part. June Moxie smiled mischievously and wanted to keep them guessing. But the four women glared at him angrily at the same time. Both of his ears were grabbed and twisted fiercely. Are you going to tell me or not? Under such a classic torture, June Dashao did not give in. He continued with a bitter face. So, in order to save his mother, the son of the white snake went through 81 difficulties and so on, and finally, he was rescued, and the family was reunited. June Moxie wiped his sweat. He wanted to tease the Snake King, but he did not expect himself to be caught in a trap of his own making. He was forced to tell such a long story. At last, the result was a happy ending. The lovers finally got married. That abominable Fa Hai really deserved to die. The love between a man and a woman had nothing to do with him. He interfered wantonly and made the husband and wife separated for so many years. Dugu Xiaoyi wiped her tears and said angrily, "None of these great scholars are good people." Mei Shuiyin and the other two women obviously felt the same way. They nodded together. Later, some busybodies made up a song about their experience. So it was sung all over the world. The love between the white snake and Su Xian finally became an immortal legend. Jun Moxie smiled faintly and ended the story. "What song? Let's hear it." Guan Qinghan and Dugu Xiaoyi were suddenly interested. Even Mei Shuiyin and Qian Sun Serpent Queen had a look of expectation in their eyes. "Ahem, my voice is really not suitable for singing. Forget it. It's just a song." Jun Moxie didn't expect that there would be an interlude here. He was a little embarrassed. Well, it wasn't that he didn't know how to sing this song, but for this great assassin to really sing at the top of his voice, whether it was in his previous life or this life, he had never done it, and he was definitely not willing to do it. "No, hurry up and sing. Do you still want your ears?" The four women spoke in unison and pressed forward at the same time. Blocking off all directions, young Master Jun had no place to hide. Jun Moxie cried bitterly in his heart and raised his hands to surrender. "I can sing, but I have to make it clear that I really don't know how to sing. I can only hum slowly. This song is so old that I've almost forgotten it." "No, you must remember it all, or you can forget about your ears," they said in unison again. Jun Moxie had no choice but to give in again. He closed his eyes and adjusted his emotions. He coughed a few times. The women all held their breath. Jun Moxie finally, slowly hummed. "Fate brings us together from thousands of miles away. It's hard to hold hands if we're not fated to meet each other. 10 years spent in the same boat. 100 years spent in the same pillow." Jun Moxie finally finished humming with difficulty. He seemed to have missed a few sentences, but his face was thicker than the city wall. He didn't care about this, but it was such an incomplete song, coupled with the extremely poignant melody and touching lyrics, that made the eyes of the women blurred for a while. "What a beautiful song." Mei Shuiyin had a dreamy color on her face. She said faintly, "What a beautiful mood." The women nodded. After listening to the story and hearing this song, they suddenly felt that they were closely related to the characters in the story. They felt happy, angry, sad, and happy as they parted with life and death. For a moment, no one spoke. In the silence, a thin sound of a flute sounded faintly. It was like the sound of nature. It was Guan Qinghan taking out the jade flute from her sleeve. She slowly played it according to the tune that Jun Moxie hummed. The sound of the flute seemed to bring everyone into the illusory story. After a long time, the sound of the flute finally dissipated. Everyone finally came back to their senses. What a beautiful song. I've never heard such a beautiful song before. Dugu Xiaoyi clapped her hands with an intoxicated expression on her face. Suddenly, she said in surprise, "Brother Mo Xia, I've never heard the story before." "I've never heard this song either. Where did you get it?" This question attracted everyone's attention to Jun Moxie. Jun Moxie suddenly looked a little embarrassed. He coughed a few times and said, I actually heard it by accident. I've long forgotten who told me about it. It's been a long time. It's already very good that I can still remember it. Look, we're almost done eating. The afternoon auction is about to start. We have to hurry up and prepare." "Oomph, you must have something else." Dugu Xiaoyi pouted and said with certainty, "I'll dig you up." The little girl's voice was very sure. It was as if she was making threatening gestures. Jun Moxie was sweating profusely. If he was really pestered by this little girl and asked for songs every day, his stock would be gone in 2 days. At this time, a savior came. A clear knock came from the door. Then, Hai Chan Feng said, "Third young master, the elders of the 3 holy lands have something to discuss with you." "I don't know. The 3 holy lands?" Jun Moxie and Mei Shuiyin looked at each other. Then they said, "I'll go over." Hai Chan Feng quietly complied outside. Mei Shuiyin frowned and stood up. "Will you accompany me?" Jun Moxie looked at Mei Shuiyin. "Well, I'll go with you. You don't know much about these people. Suffering a loss is a small matter, but it's very likely that it will turn into a bloodbath. You're still too weak. Mei Shuiyan smiled faintly. There was a hint of concern in her eyes. I've dealt with them before. I'm sure they won't recognize me, but I can give you some advice if I'm present. June Moxie smiled faintly and said, I think it's about the pills. Moreover, it's about the alchemist. Apart from that, why would these people from the Holy Lands care about an idle person like me? There won't be a big fight. Chapter 518. Bloodshed is caused by cause and effect. Greed is the original sin. June Moxie said calmly, We are not afraid of anyone's provocation, not to mention that you're here to oversee things. Even if I'm alone, there's nothing to be afraid of. Mei Shuiyan nodded, and the two walked out together. When they arrived at the hall where Hermitage was, they saw that the people of the illusory ocean of blood and the great golden city were already waiting there. Hermitage Ning Wuching was sitting at the head of the table, while the illusory ocean of blood and the great golden city were sitting on the left and right respectively. This left the lowest seat for June Moxie. Seeing June Dashao's arrival, the three Holy Lands didn't even bother to greet him. It was obvious that the three Holy Lands had a tacit understanding to give June Moxie a show of strength. Seeing this situation, even with Mei Shuiyan's self-restraint, she couldn't help but frown, feeling a little angry. On the contrary, June Moxie didn't say anything. He only gave her a meaningful glance, and the two of them sat down. June Moxie's buttocks had just touched the chair, and he had already crossed his legs out of habit. Seniors, you've come to Tianxiang City. This June didn't go out to welcome you. It's very rude of me. Here, I thank you for your hospitality. Please don't blame me. Haha, I presume that everyone has already had their lunch. How is it? June Moxie cupped his hands in greeting. His words were naturally pleasant to hear, but since he had said it while crossing his legs, it was somewhat perfunctory. Immediately, the 15 experts present all became somewhat unhappy. However, as soon as they saw Mei Shuiyan's peerless beauty, they couldn't help but stare blankly for a moment. In fact, they even forgot to get angry. Not at all. Young friend, please sit down. There's no need to be polite. Young friend is very thoughtful and has arranged everything properly. We are very satisfied. Ning Wuching smiled faintly and gestured with his hand. On the other hand, Ma Jiangming let out a strange laugh and said in a gloomy tone, Young Master June, we wish to discuss an important matter with young Master June regarding the future of the continent. I wonder who this young lady beside young Master June is? All the experts present were dazzled by Mei Shuiyan's peerless beauty. Even a senior expert like Ning Wuching couldn't help but have a trace of admiration in his eyes. Only Ma Jiangming didn't seem to feel anything. In fact, there was even a trace of disgust in his eyes as he looked at Mei Shuiyan. This is my wife. Ha ha. June Moxie was secretly pleased. I was hoping that someone would ask this question so that this young master can take advantage of them. Taking advantage of others is a habit. Taking advantage of others will become a habit. Not only will this young master get used to it, but the one being taken advantage of will also get used to it. He smiled as he pondered. He was afraid that the opposite party wouldn't understand. So, he patiently explained, She's my wife, the one who sleeps beside me. Mei Shuiyan's pretty face turned red. She fiercely glared at him. However, she couldn't refute him in this situation. So, she had no choice but to let him be complacent for the time being. She would take good care of him on the 15th day of the 8th month. Oh, this young lady is graceful and graceful. Her facial features are picturesque. She looks like a celestial fairy. Young Master June is truly blessed. A talented man and a beautiful woman are a match made in heaven. Ha! Ning Wuching said with a smile. Ning Wuching and Ma Jiangming had received a favor from June Moxie. They had eaten a bone-tempering pill for free. So, they now knew that they had eaten at least 50 to 60,000 gold taels. This favor was too big. Therefore, the two of them were too embarrassed to make things difficult for June Moxie. Therefore, the main character of today's matter had fallen on the body of another holy land, the illusory ocean of blood. Moreover, The person in charge of the illusory ocean of blood was their young lord, Huyin Xiao. Therefore, it would be easier to communicate with the younger generation. At least, there wouldn't be a need for a senior expert like him to personally greet a junior like Jun Moxie. It was a pity that they didn't know that the people of the illusory ocean of blood had intervened in the dispute between the three big families and the Huang family. Moreover, they had come to the Jun family to show off their strength. They had even tried to steal the pills. Therefore, a huge conflict had already broken out between the two families. In fact, the number one expert of the illusory ocean of blood, Huang Taiyang, had perished in the Jun family. It could be said that the two sides were irreconcilable enemies. Ning Wuqing and Ma Jiangming would have been very depressed if they had come to know about this matter. After all, the illusory ocean of blood wouldn't have had the slightest hope of negotiating with Jun Moxie on behalf of the three big families in such a situation. In fact, the illusory ocean of blood wouldn't have had any hope even if they had begged Jun Moxie to negotiate with them. Young Master Jun? I'm the young lord of the illusory ocean of blood, Huyin Xiao. Huyin Xiao's complexion was exceptionally gloomy as he looked at Jun Moxie. His sinister eyes were staring at Jun Daxiao like a viper. He remained motionless, and an invisible pressure pressed down on Jun Moxie along with his movements. Huyin Xiao's plan was very good. His Xian cultivation had already reached the 3rd grade of Shun Xian's realm. So, he planned to use his formidable, imposing manner to suppress the opponent before the battle even started. After all, Jun Moxie's imposing manner would fall into a disadvantageous position. Then, Huyin Xiao would be in charge of the following negotiations. Wouldn't it be easy for the 3 holy lands to get what they wanted at that time? It's an honor to meet you in person. Young Lord Huyin has the demeanor of an invincible expert under the heavens. You're truly outstanding. I admire you. In fact, I admire you a lot. Jun Moxie was being polite with his words. However, he was still sitting with his legs crossed. He looked at Huyin Xiao with a faint smile on his face. In fact, it seemed as if he was looking at a clown performing a vaudeville act. Huyin Xiao's imposing manner was like a tsunami as it came in contact with Jun Moxie. But it seemed as if a wave had met a reef that had surfaced on the water surface. Huyin Xiao's powerful and imposing manner hit Jun Moxie's face. However, it seemed as if Jun Moxie hadn't felt anything. On the contrary, Huyin Xiao felt as if his punch had landed on cotton. This made his chest feel somewhat uncomfortable. Ning Wuqing wrinkled his brows. Ma Jiangming's pupils also shrank. This point alone was enough to prove that the rumor that the Jun family had an unrivaled expert was true. Their strength was far above Huyin Xiao's. However, they wouldn't necessarily be able to deal with Huyin Xiao's oppressive, imposing manner with such ease. In fact, they wouldn't have been able to remain calm and composed. However, no one noticed that the fairy-like girl had lifted her eyelids slightly, and that had reduced Huyin Xiao's oppressive, imposing manner into nothingness. Jun Moxie could have withstood it, but he wouldn't have been able to do it so easily. Mei Shuiyin couldn't stand the arrogance of the people of the 3 holy lands. You want to show me your strength? I also want to show you my strength. Let's see who's stronger than the other. The other experts of the 3 holy lands were still sitting in their original places. They hadn't unleashed their martial arts. However, they felt that even an expert like Shun Xian would have felt uneasy if he had been sitting in front of him. However, Jun Moxie had acted in such a carefree and natural manner. Therefore, everyone became awed. Jun Moxie is an extraordinary man, but he's still a young man who isn't even 20 years old. How could he have taught such an amazing disciple if he didn't have an exceedingly powerful master behind him? Well said. Young Master Jun is young and promising. His Xian skills are brilliant. Moreover, the Jun family is like an impenetrable fortress. Such a family background and such methods are truly enviable. Huyin Xiao spoke up in a gloomy manner. Young Lord is overpraising me. The Jun family is only a worldly family. So, how can it be considered as an elegant family? We can barely cope with a few thieves and thieves. But we're not worth mentioning if we were to face a truly strong expert. Jun Moxie replied modestly. His face was calm and pure. Huyan Zhao's face turned red. It seemed as if he wanted to get angry. Other people might have thought that Jun Moxie was being modest when he had said these words. However, how could Huyan Zhao not understand it since he was the person involved? Thieves and thieves? Aren't you talking about Huang Taiyong? He belongs to my illusory ocean of blood. Hee hee, this young lord admits that I'm no match for young Master Jun. However, this matter is related to the future of the continent. It's related to the well-being of the common people. So, I've come here today in hopes that young Master Jun can give me an explanation. Huyan Zhao's gloomy eyes flashed with anger as he spoke up in a slow manner. Jun Moxie was left speechless. How can the so-called people of the Holy Land behave like this? They talk about the common people of the world, and they talk about the future of the continent. Do you really represent anything? Moreover, I don't know how this Huyan Zhao managed to slow down the aging process of an ordinary Tianxian expert because of his Xian skills. Even a 60, 70-year-old expert would look like a 30 or 40-year-old expert. But this young lord is different. Jun Moxie had determined that this young lord was at least at the level of Shun Xian's level of cultivation through the contact he had with him a moment ago. He was almost 50 years old. It could be said that he had made rapid progress in his cultivation. However, his actual age and appearance seemed to complement each other. In fact, it was quite appropriate. He looks like an old man, no matter how you look at him. And this old man is still calling me this young lord. This makes people's teeth ache. Young lord, young lord, young lord, and so on. Everyone knows that this young lord isn't very old. He might be 17 or 18 years old, or perhaps 20 or 30 years old. But he would be too embarrassed to call himself this young lord if he's over 40 years old. Who has ever seen an old man open his mouth and say, this young lord? Jun Moxie really wanted to say, you're so old that your teeth are falling out. So what's the fart? Young lord, please speak clearly if you have something to say. This Jun is slow-witted. I don't understand how a puny Jun Moxie can be involved with the common people of the world and the future of the continent. Jun Moxie had deliberately emphasized the word, young lord. Moreover, he had distanced himself from the last two words. The experts from the elusive world of immortals and the supreme golden city snorted. Huyan Zhao's face turned red. He angrily asked, this young lord, I want to ask you, how many bone-tempering pills do you have left? And where's the person who refined those pills now? He is the key to this matter. You're just a puny Jun Moxie. So you're nothing. Huyan Zhao's anger had been aroused by Jun Moxie's words. So he couldn't help but blurt out these words. But he remembered Jun Moxie's words as he was addressing himself, and he froze for a moment. The experts of the illusory ocean of blood could restrain their laughter. But how could the experts of the other two holy lands endure it? Huyan Zhao's face turned red as he faced such an embarrassing situation. He was almost at a loss for what to do. Even the imposing manner in which he had been speaking had become subdued. Chapter 519. Today's Outbreak. First update. Asking for a guaranteed monthly ticket. I'll make it clear that the future outbreaks will be concentrated in the afternoon and evening. But today is the first day of November. So, I'll make an exception. I've exhausted the strength of 9 oxen, 2 tigers, 3 camels, and 5 donkeys in order to write this. Sure enough, it was as expected. Jun Moxie sneered. He rolled his eyes and said, young Lord Huyan, are you trying to interrogate me? Haha, that's right. How can a trifling Jun family enter the eyes of the experts of the 3 holy lands? So, what are you doing here if that's the case? Even if I'm interrogating you, so what? Everything we do is for the sake of the common people's future and the general trend of the world. Are you going to tell me or not? Jun Moxie, you must think about it carefully. Don't become a sinner for all eternity. Huyan Zhao looked to his left and right. Then he suddenly became courageous and grinned nastily. Everyone here today is an expert of the 3 holy lands. You are only a young master of secular family. So, what can you do even if you are talented? I'll take this opportunity to settle old and new enmity. You dare to kill the people of my illusory ocean of blood? I'll kill you. Ning Wuching sighed. He despised him in his heart. Just by looking at this young sect leader's current expression, one could tell that this young sect leader was absolutely useless. For the sake of the common people's future, you don't seem to have the qualifications to say these words. Jun Moxie looked at him disdainfully and said, Huang Taiyang would have been barely qualified to say these words if you were here. But it's a pity that you're not. You're far from qualified. Ma Jiangming rolled his eyes. He didn't want to make the situation too awkward. So he took the opportunity to change the topic. That old bastard Huang Taiyang. Who knows where he's gone? I haven't seen him for many years. This old man misses him very much. Huyan Xiao stamped his foot and said in a sharp voice, Jun Moxie, why are you pretending to be confused? Old Huang has already been killed by your dirty tricks. Do you think I don't know that? I didn't want to make things difficult for you today, but I didn't expect you to be so ungrateful. Making an enemy of my blood sea is making an enemy of the 3 great holy lands. Making an enemy of the 3 great holy lands is making an enemy of the entire world. Tell me the whereabouts of the alchemist, and I can still show you mercy. Otherwise, what? Ning Wuching and Ma Jiangming were both taken aback. Their eyes snapped open, and they sat up straight. However, they obviously wouldn't get involved in Huyan Zhao's nonsense. After all, they were more concerned about another piece of news. Huang Taiyang is dead, and to die at the hands of this young man, a sinister scheme? This was simply the most unfunny joke. What kind of ambush, trap, and scheme could cause the death of an expert above the supreme level? If that was the case, how could he be called a superior supreme? It was one thing to confirm that the Jun family had a very strong expert overseeing the Jun family. In fact, he had even felt that this expert might have reached his level. However, it seemed that he had underestimated him. What kind of expert could kill Huang Taiyang without giving him a chance to escape? He and Ma Jiangming couldn't have killed him even if they joined hands. Isn't this too strong? Ning Wuching's eyes suddenly burst with 2 rays of light. He looked at Jun Moxie and slowly asked, Did you really kill Huang Taiyang? An enormous spiritual pressure burst forth as he spoke. Ning Wuching's strength was far superior to that of Huyan Zhao's. So, even Jun Dashai wrinkled his brows. Mei Shuyan was sitting beside Jun Moxie. But this delicate beauty suddenly moved when Ning Wuching's spiritual pressure burst forth. Her movements weren't big. She slowly raised her head and slowly opened her eyes. Then her eyes met with Ning Wuching's. Bang! It seemed as if a soundless thunderclap had resounded as their eyes met. An invisible force had dispersed in all directions in the room. Everyone's robes fluttered in the wind, except for Ma Jiangming. Everyone's eyes exposed a look of deep fear. Ning Wuching's upper body fiercely leaned back. His white hair fluttered back with a cry. Then he slowly straightened his body. It seemed as if he was withstanding some kind of fierce pressure. His complexion had become exceptionally dignified and solemn. It seemed as if he was facing a formidable enemy. This enemy can threaten my life. Moreover, it's a terrifying expert who can kill everyone here in one fell swoop. Mei Shuyan remained motionless. Her eyes were cold, but her beautiful hair that was draped over her shoulders was fluttering even though there was no wind. This added an elusive and mysterious hue to her beauty. I hadn't expected that the young lady would turn out to be a peerless expert. This Ning has been disrespectful. Ning Wuching's aura changed. He became like a sharp sword that had been unsheathed. Rays of light radiated in all directions, and sword energy overflowed in all directions. He didn't care about his momentary lack of manners. In fact, he didn't lose the demeanor of a powerful expert. The name of the 3 holy lands isn't an excuse for you to bully others. Mei Shuyan Langlang said, The contributions of the 3 holy lands for thousands of years can't be erased. But it's not a capital for you to bully others. Ning Wuching, Ma Jiangming, Huyan Xiao, you guys have gone too far. May I ask who this young lady is? Ma Jiangming's eyes ignited with anger. She's my wife. Didn't I make myself clear a moment ago? What? Could it be that the three holy lands want to bully a weak woman? Jun Moxie opened his mouth slowly. You bully and humiliate someone's family in their own home. This, the people of the three holy lands, shouldn't be so lacking in morals, right? Is this what you call for the common people of the world? Is this for the future of the continent? Ning Wuqing smiled bitterly. This brat words are too out of tune. If this wife of yours calls her a weak woman, then I'm afraid that you won't be able to find many strong men in the whole world. Ning Wuqing made a gesture with his hands and signaled everyone to calm down. He smiled and said, our original intention was that young Master Jun might not be able to recognize the miraculous effects of this pill. So, it might be taken advantage of by some scoundrels. But we don't need to worry since young Master Jun has so many experts here. So, they can ensure the safety of this miraculous pill. We thought that young Master Jun didn't know enough about this miraculous pill. After all, he wasn't as reliable as our three holy lands. But it seems that we've been worrying too much. Ning Wuqing hadn't said it clearly, but he had clearly hinted to Jun Moxie, we won't use force this time. Jun Moxie pursed his lips. He muttered in his heart, you want to use force? But do you have the confidence to do so? If you dare to act recklessly again, I'll kill you. However, Ning Wuqing's attitude was very straightforward. He had clearly said, if you are not strong enough, then we will use force. In fact, Jun Emosia was quite appreciative of this point. Faced with such a miraculous pill, who wouldn't want to keep it for themselves? Rather than sneakily playing dirty tricks, it was better to make things clear. Even if they were bad, they would do it openly. Even if they were despicable, they would still be despicable. Now, let's get back to business. This old man represents the Hermitage and is here to discuss with young Master Jun. Ning Wuqing looked at Mei Shuyan with some fear. He then said in a self-mocking manner, originally, the palace lord had given strict orders to bring back the person who can refine the pill to the immortal palace. But now, it seems that there's no point in bringing this up. But this miraculous pill, our Hermitage wishes to have an extra portion. I wonder if young Master Jun can mediate and not make things too difficult for this old man. According to the rules of the auction, each party could only bid for one portion. Even the three holy lands were no exception. Ning Wuqing was naturally aware of this matter, but with his status, he was willing to lower his face and speak in such a manner. This was already giving Jun Moxie enough face. Jun Moxie did not say a word. He was waiting for Mei Shuyan's reaction. From what Mei Shuyan had said in the Tian Fa forest, it could be seen that Mei Shuyan's brother, the venerable Mei, had a grudge with the Hermitage. In fact, it was not a small grudge. Hence, in this matter, Jun Moxie had to consider Mei Shuyan's opinion. If Mei Shuyan was not willing, then he would use the rules of the auction to reject her. If it's just one portion, it's not a problem. Mei Shuyan said softly, but you must announce it in front of everyone, and only one portion. In addition, you must pay according to the highest price of the auction. We will give Hermitage face and give you an extra portion. This is already an exception. If Mr. Ning still has any objections, then forget it. Jun Moxie's heart was filled with complicated feelings. Mei Shuyan didn't even think about it before saying these words. This meant that in her heart, no matter when, the war for seizing the heavens was the most important. She was really looking at the big picture. She was only a Xian beast. But this kind of breadth of mind was really worthy of admiration. Compared to the three holy lands who were talking about the common people of the world and the future of the continent, these people should really die of shame. This condition is very reasonable. Then it's settled. Many thanks. Ning Wuqing was silent for a moment, and then agreed to this condition. Today's matter could no longer be carried out. He could only try his best to fight for the greatest benefits. Everything would have to wait until he returned and reported to the palace master. Being able to obtain an extra portion of pills was already an unexpected harvest. As for the highest price, it was not in this expert's heart. After all, gold and silver were just worldly possessions. Our supreme golden city also wants an extra portion. Ma Jiangming said coldly. Since Ning Wuqing had asked for an extra portion, he was naturally not willing to fall behind. All right, the conditions are the same as hermitages. Mei Shuiyin, Lang looked at him. She could clearly see the killing intent in Ma Jiangming's eyes, but she still agreed. Mei Shuiyin was thinking about the war for seizing the heavens that was coming soon. Our illusory ocean of blood. Hu Xiao hadn't even finished speaking when he was interrupted by Jun Moxie. He was afraid that Mei Shuiyin would think of the big picture and give away the pills. So he straightforwardly refused. The illusory ocean of blood doesn't have it. The illusory ocean of blood has become mortal enemies. So, why would they give away pills? Why? Hu Xiao suddenly jumped up. He suddenly felt the blood rushing to his head. Jun Moxie, you dare to humiliate me. Hermitage had made a request, and it had been granted. The Supreme Golden City had made a request, and it had been granted. But the illusory ocean of blood had refused. This was like a fierce slap to the faces of these 5 people from the illusory ocean of blood. It was loud and clear. Chapter 520. Today, the second update has been delivered. The third update is being revised. Jun Moxie calmly raised his head and looked at them. Why? Because the 3 holy lands have a mixture of good and bad people. Hermitage and the Great Golden City have a lofty status. But they know that they have to abide by the rules of the secular world. Therefore, I still believe that the 2 holy lands are upright and above-board people no matter what happens in the future. At least, they are not as despicable as your illusory ocean of blood. Moreover, I believe that the 2 holy lands have bought this pill to prepare for the war for seizing the heavens. So I, Jun Moxie, can even give it to them as a gift. Jun Moxie's words had greatly flattered Hermitage and the Great Golden City, but it had also suppressed the illusory ocean of blood, and it had automatically divided them. Everyone knew his intentions, but Hermitage and the Great Golden City had already achieved their goal. So, how could they be willing to complicate matters? Therefore, Jun Moxie had calculated that they wouldn't join hands again. Hu Zhao's nose had become crooked. His face had turned red. He roared like a mountain. Don't tell me that our illusory ocean of blood isn't preparing for the war for seizing the heavens. Don't tell me that our illusory ocean of blood is only doing this for ourselves. Jun Moxie, you dare to humiliate and slander our illusory ocean of blood? Are you tired of living? Is that so? Why didn't I see that? I only saw that your illusory ocean of blood had repeatedly sent people to the Jun family to steal the pill. But you didn't feel ashamed after we found out about it. Instead, you brazenly blackmailed us. You even threatened to exterminate our Jun family by force. You forced us to hand over the pill. Jun Mo Xie's eyes flashed like electricity as he coldly looked at Hu Xiao. You failed once. So, you've sent an expert above the great master level, Huang Taiyang, to carry out this thieving act. You even threatened to exterminate my entire family. Such despicable behavior has never been seen in this world. Our Jun family would have been exterminated a long time ago if it weren't for the fact that we still needed to defend ourselves. And we wouldn't be holding this auction today. Hu Xiao, I really have to admire you. You've lost all your experts after your treacherous plan has been foiled, and you've seen that you can't force your way out. But you still have the cheek to ask me for more? Jun Moxie snorted. Then he said disdainfully, Hu Xiao, where did you learn to be so thick-skinned? Is this the unique divine technique of your illusory ocean of blood? As expected, he is unparalleled in the world. Could it be that the most despicable person is invincible in the world? There's such a thing. Ning Wuqing frowned. His complexion sank. Then his eyes swept towards Hu Xiao like 2 sword lights. Ma Jiangming also had a look of disdain on his face. Yes, the Great Golden City was determined to get the elixir as well as the alchemist. However, they would never be as despicable as the illusory blood sea. A bunch of nonsense. Hu Zhao's face was about to bleed. He felt ashamed under the contemptuous gazes of the 10 experts of the other 2 holy lands. Jun Moxie, you're slandering me. You must know the reason behind this. I'm talking nonsense. How am I talking nonsense? Huyan Shao, did 2 great master-level experts break into the Jun family that night? Did they trespass into the courtyard where the women of the Jun family live? Were they subordinates of your illusory ocean of blood? Did you order them to do this? You're the leader of the illusory ocean of blood. So, how can you get away with this? Jun Moxie interrupted him. Lingling asked, Nonsense. It was clearly old Huang Taiyang who had instructed them to go. How could I have instructed them? Huyan Shao blurted out the truth under the watchful gazes of the 3 experts, Ning Wuqing, Ma Jiangming, and Mei Xuan. Huang Taiyang instructed them. That's good. Even if Huang Taiyang had overstepped his authority and issued the order, isn't Huang Taiyang a member of your illusory ocean of blood? You're pushing all the blame onto a dead man. You're a coward. Do you think you can shirk your responsibility like this? What a joke. Jun Moxie laughed in a mocking manner. Ning Wuqing and Ma Jiangming also sighed. Jun Moxie is saying that Huang Taiyang instructed them. You're the young lord of the illusory ocean of blood. How could you say such thoughtless words? Is there any difference between Huang Taiyang instructing you or your father Huyan Ao Bo instructing you? Moreover, you, the young lord, are right next to me. Even if Huang Taiyang had overstepped his authority and issued orders on behalf of others, you should have shouldered the responsibility as the young lord since he's already dead. But not only are you unwilling to shoulder the responsibility, but you've even spoken in such a manner. Well, I'll take what you've said as the truth. Then, Huang Taiyang personally went to the Jun family's tower the next night. He acted willfully and unscrupulously. In fact, it was enough to intimidate the entire Tianxiang city. It can be said that everyone in the capital knows about this. My Jun family would have been destroyed a long time ago if it weren't for the fact that there are still a few capable people in my Jun family. In fact, almost the entire capital is looking at my Jun family as a joke. My Jun family has been established for dozens of years. But no one has ever trampled on us like this, even when we were in dire straits. So, may I ask the young lord if you still want to say that Huang Taiyang acted arbitrarily in this matter? And he didn't even seek your consent? In fact, you weren't even aware of this matter until now. Isn't your position as the young lord a little too pitiful? Jun Moxie smiled mischievously. He didn't relax at all. Instead, he continued to interrogate Huyan Shao. Huyan Shao was left dumbfounded. After all, this was the truth. And he couldn't deny it. In fact, he couldn't blame Jun Moxie for not explaining the whole matter clearly. That was because Jun Moxie hadn't mentioned the cause of this matter. The cause of this matter was because the Huang family had distorted the truth. They had wanted to use the strength of Huang Taiyang and the illusory ocean of blood to suppress the 3 great families. Huang Taiyang had stepped forward on behalf of his own family. So, there was nothing wrong with that. But the fact was that the Huang family had made a mistake. So, there was no justification for this. So, it would be meaningless even if they were forced to talk about this matter. That's because Huang Taiyang's original intention had 2 objectives. The first one was revenge, and the second one was the divine pills. Moreover, it was very obvious that the illusory ocean of blood wanted to monopolize all the divine pills. In fact, they even wanted to take the people along with them. Everyone present on the scene was experienced. So, how could they not understand this? Ning Wuqing and Ma Jiangming looked at Huyan Shao with cold eyes as they thought of this. It's fortunate that the Jun family has another expert here to keep watch, so they can deflect the illusory ocean of blood's edge. Otherwise, wouldn't the illusory ocean of blood have succeeded? Jun Moxie coldly snorted. Then, he turned towards Ning Wuqing and Ma Jiangming. Words can't be made clear if they don't speak. And the 2 seniors should understand what I mean by now, right? Our Jun family has already killed 2 groups of experts from the illusory ocean of blood who had gone to the Jun family to steal the divine pills. One of them was a superior great master, Huang Taiyang. So, I would like to ask the two seniors, will the illusory ocean of blood let us off if they find out about this? Ning Wuqing and Ma Jiangming smiled bitterly at each other. Does this need to be said? You've killed their people. And it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. It doesn't matter what the reason is. So, this enmity has already been sown. So, it doesn't matter who's right or wrong in this world. So, it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. And it doesn't matter which side you're on. So, this enmity has already been sown. I can tell from the two seniors' expressions that the illusory ocean of blood won't let our June family off. They were in the wrong in this matter. But the illusory ocean of blood is one of the three holy lands of the world. So, they can't afford to lose this much face. Now, our June family is facing a knife no matter what we stretch our head out, and a knife no matter what. So why should I give the illusory ocean of blood those pills for free? Should I let them train some talented people to deal with us? June Moxie's expression was very sincere. In fact, it even seemed as if he had been wronged. The aristocratic hall is a business, and the rules have never been broken. It's true that the 20 pills were restricted by the rules, but it was also for the sake of the war for seizing the heavens. So, it can be considered as my June family's contribution to the common people of the world. Don't tell me that my June family will give such divine pills to the enemy for a trifling 300,000 taels of gold. But things can only be done once. The illusory ocean of blood can forget about enjoying the same treatment as the Hermitage and the Great Golden City. June Moxie had already made it clear that his words were a dead end. The same goes for the same reason. You'll kill me if I don't give you the pills. I'll die if I give you the pills. So, why should I give them to you? Would I do something as stupid as giving money to the enemy? Am I being cheap? Ning Wuqing and Ma Jiangming were taking pleasure in the misfortune of the illusory ocean of blood at this moment. The efficacy of these pills is so miraculous. I personally tried it. Our two families can get 40 pills each, but the illusory ocean of blood only got 20. The illusory ocean of blood's strength will be far inferior to our two families in the future. This is tantamount to getting rid of a big enemy without shedding a drop of blood. The two of them were overjoyed as they thought of this. In fact, they even wanted to thank June Moxie in their hearts. However, this wasn't the time for them to laugh. Huiyan Zhao's entire body trembled in anger. He unwaveringly glared at June Moxie and spoke up with resentment. June Moxie, you mustn't regret this. June Moxie snorted and said, what you're going to say next is, wait for the revenge of our illusory ocean of blood. He looked at Huiyan Zhao in a mocking manner. This young, Lord, I'm embarrassed to address you like this because of your age. But I have no choice but to address you as young. Lord, let me ask you something here. Huang Taiyang died at the hands of my June family. So, would your illusory ocean of blood let me off even if I were to sell you a divine pill for free? Will you? Huh? Huiyan Zhao was left speechless. A superior great master has died. So, how can we let you off so easily? Isn't this nonsense? How many superior great masters are there in the entire continent? The illusory ocean of blood won't have any loyal people in the future if we give up on revenge for a few pills. June Mo CS snorted. Things have come to this. So, there's nothing more to say. I've been waiting for your revenge since the day Huang Taiyang died. Now, you want me to not regret it? Is this joke funny? Chapter 521. Huiyan Zhao's complexion changed from green to red. Then, it changed from red to white. His ghastly white face revealed a boundless murderous intention. He roared in anger and moved his hand towards June Moxie to grab him. Halfway through, his originally fair and smooth palms suddenly turned blood-red in color, and they even emitted a black, fishy smell. Blood seized Withered Bone's palm. Ning Wuqing's eyes flashed as he said in a sinking voice. This sentence was obviously meant to remind June Moxie to be careful. June Moxie snorted. He was about to counter the attack with his palm. The art of unlocking heaven's fortune could break all the evil techniques in the world. The more evil a technique was, the more it could restrain it. Therefore, Jun Dashao didn't care about this young lord who was several levels higher than him. Jun Moxie was very confident that his palms would naturally restrain Huyin Zhao's power. Huyin Zhao would suffer a backlash if his palms were to meet Huyin Zhao's palms. In fact, it would be a trivial matter if Huyin Zhao were to be defeated on the spot. However, Jun Moxie might even force the poison into his heart if Huyin Zhao was careless and didn't go all out. Suddenly, a bang sound was heard. Then, Huyin Zhao's body crashed through the roof with a whooshing sound and broke a big hole in the roof. He flew straight up, and a mouthful of blood sprinkled down from the sky like raindrops. The four experts of the illusory ocean of blood were shocked. They feared that Huyin Zhao would get seriously injured. So, they hurriedly jumped out and took care of their young lord. Mei Shuiyin stood in front of Jun Moxie in a relaxed manner. She faintly said, "Huyin Zhao, your arrogance has its limits. You'll need your father, Huyin Ao Bo, to come in person if you want to behave atrociously. You don't have enough weight." Her voice wasn't loud, but spread far and wide. Mei Shuiyin had suddenly appeared a moment ago. She had grabbed Huyin Zhao and thrown him away. Her movements could be said to be extremely fast. In fact, almost no one on the scene had been able to see it clearly. Even someone as strong as Ning Wuqing and Ma Jiangming had only seen a white shadow flash in front of them, and Huyin Zhao had been sent flying. They hadn't seen how Mei Shuiyin had attacked. The two of them looked at each other in shock. This kind of speed had clearly exceeded the two's understanding. It was truly frightening. What they didn't know was that a few days ago, although Mei Shuyin's speed was also at an extremely fast level, much faster than the two of them, it wasn't at such a shocking level. But now that he had taken the vitality linkage pill, his speed had tripled. Now that he had suddenly made a move, it naturally shocked the two experts. In the distance, there was an extremely sullen howl, followed by the sound of clothes fluttering in the air. It gradually faded away. It was obvious that the people of the illusory ocean of blood had directly left. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't have the face to stay here. Even with all the water from the 5 lakes and 4 seas, it would be difficult to wash away the shame on my face today. May I dare to ask young lady's surname? Ning Wuqing looked deeply at Mei Shuiyin and asked in a solemn manner. My surname is Mei, Mei Shuiyin replied indifferently. Jun Moxie had intended to stop her, but Mei Shuiyin had already answered. Ma Jiangming and Ning Wuqing revealed a strange look in their eyes. It was obvious that the surname Mei had made their imaginations run wild. Ma Jiangming smiled sinisterly and said, Mei, this surname is very rare. In fact, there have only been 3 top-notch experts with the surname Mei in the last 1,000 years. But I wonder which one of them is young lady's descendant? One of them is Mei Gai. His name shook the Jianghu 1,300 years ago. Later, he joined the Hermitage, and in the war for seizing the heavens 1,000 years ago, he perished together with Matsushita Kodai. The other one is the Tian Fa Forest's previous Saint King, Mei Chong Tian. And the third one is the venerable Mei of the Tian Fa Forest. Ning Wuqing's eyes were fixed on Mei Shuyin's face. A sword light seemed to shoot out from his eyes. Young lady Mei's skills are extraordinary, and your knowledge is also extraordinary. Have you heard of these 3 people? I've never heard of them. Mei Shuyin's expression didn't change. She looked at Ning Wuqing indifferently. I don't know the meaning of your words. Are you trying to investigate my background? Ning Wuqing's sword-like eyes came into contact with Mei Shuyin's indifferent eyes, and he suddenly felt his heart stagnate. It was as if the tip of the sword had been broken and was stabbing him instead. He couldn't help but take a step back, and his pupils shrank as he said, I was just joking. Young lady is magnanimous. Please don't blame me. Mei Shuiyin nodded and walked out with Jun Moxie. Ning Wuqing's eyes flashed. He suddenly took a step forward and said in a deep voice, Young Master Jun, you and your wife are powerful enough to roam the world unhindered. There's no need for this old man to say so much. But there's one thing that you and your wife need to pay attention to. Jun Moxie stopped and said, Senior, please speak. With your Xian skills, I believe that you and your wife can roam the world. But you must be careful if you meet someone. Ning Wuching's long beard fluttered even though there was no wind. May I ask who that person is? I really didn't know that there's such an ability in this world. Jun Moxie smiled faintly. He was full of confidence. That person is the Venerable Mei of the Tian Fa Forest. Ning Wuching's eyes shone as he looked at the two's backs. Venerable Mei is the Beast King of Tian Fa. He's not of our race, and his heart is definitely different. He's ruthless and cruel and devoid of conscience. In those days, he did all kinds of evil, but his Xian skills are extraordinarily high, and no one can control him. Back then, this old man had once joined hands with 9 great experts to stop him. Unfortunately, he still managed to escape without a trace. The only consolation was that this old man had once heavily stabbed Venerable Mei's body with my sword. But the price was that this old man was kicked in the chest by him. That injury took me 30 years to recover. These past few years, there's no news of him. I heard that he appeared in Tian Fa some time ago, stirring up trouble, and did not hesitate to use his great power to bully and humiliate the great masters of this generation. I heard that young Master Jun also participated in this. You must be careful. You must know that if this kind of divine pill is obtained by a crazy person like Venerable Mei, it will definitely have a great impact on this peaceful world. The calamity it will cause may not be less than that of the strange races. Jun Moxie's entire body trembled, and he said with lingering fear, "So there's actually such a strong expert. I will definitely be extra careful and not let the bad guys have their way. Many thanks for Senior Ning's guidance." The two did not speak again and slowly walked out. Ning Wuching, Ma Jiangming, and the rest looked at the two's backs, not saying anything. When the two's figures turned a corner and disappeared, Ma Jiangming's lips moved, and he sent a voice transmission to Ning Wuching. "Old Demon Ning, what do you think?" Ning Wuching shook his head in a somewhat perplexed manner. His lean face was full of doubt as he replied, "I'm not sure. I can't be sure." Ma Jiangming made an O sound. Then, he said in a meaningful manner, "It's a pity that we can be sure if Yun Bi-chun was here." Ning Wuching slowly shook his head and slowly paced 2 steps. Then, he sent a voice transmission to Ma Jiangming. There are many doubtful points in the Battle of Tian Fa that day. The Xian beasts of Tian Fa had an ambiguous stance. Moreover, they didn't attack the people of the Jun family. Moreover, a mysterious expert has appeared in the Jun family, and this Miss Mei's Xian cultivation is obviously above ours. But I've never heard of her. Bear King and Tiger King had come to Tianxiang to deliver medicine. Old Ma, what do you think? However, that black-clothed man who appeared in Tian Fa appeared at the same time as Venerable Mei. So, it's obvious that they are not the same person. Ma Jiangming's gloomy face exposed an uncertain expression. But who else has the ability to command millions of Xian beasts apart from the Beast Kings of Tian Fa? It's true that your city lord and our palace lord have great achievements. But can they command the Xian beasts? Ning Wuching heaved a sigh of relief. Then he muttered to himself, even if they are not the same person, they must be related. What do you mean? Ma Jiangming looked at Ning Wuching in a somewhat vigilant manner. The 3 Holy Lands have been the leaders of the continent for 10,000 years. Brother Ma, what do you think of the strength of the 3 Holy Lands? Ning Wuching smiled. Ma Jiangming snorted and said, "I don't dare to say anything else. But the strength of my great golden city has far surpassed that of our ancestors. Then, in your opinion, what are our chances of victory in this war for seizing the heavens?" Ning Wuching narrowed his eyes and shot out 2 sharp, cold lights. "We will certainly win. This has already been confirmed without a doubt. If the progress of the 3 Holy Lands is equal, then even if only one of them takes action, it will still be easy," Ma Jiangming said in a gloomy manner. But his eyes flickered with arrogance. "I don't mean to look down on those strange races, but just based on their strange appearances, Brother Ning, even if they are very strong, how strong can they be?" "That's right. How can our 500 years of accumulation be a small matter? Ning Wuqing's expression also turned gloomy. In that case, why do we still need the Tian Fa forest? Ma Jiangming seemed to be taken aback. Brother Ning? You mean, even if the Xian beasts of Tian Fa can transform into human form, does that mean that their essence has also changed? We are dignified men of the human world. Do we still need to rely on a group of wild beasts to resist the invasion of foreign invaders? Ning Wuqing snorted. Then he suddenly said bitterly, for 10,000 years, we have always used Tian Fa in every battle. But who would have thought that relying on the strength of beasts is the greatest humiliation of the human race? Could it be that we can't win without relying on these wild beasts? But our city lord still holds the Xian beasts of Tian Fa in high esteem. Ma Jiangming thought for a while and said seriously, but our palace lord has already decided on a grand plan to get rid of Tian Fa. Ning Wuqing's expression was cold as he transmitted his voice. If we can make all the beast kings of Tian Fa into our beast pets, doesn't that mean we can also go into battle? And it will definitely be a great help to us? Ma Jiangming was taken aback and asked in surprise, Brother Ning, is this the palace lord's intention? That's right. Ning Wuqing nodded and suddenly asked, Ma, you've seen Yimbichen before. In your opinion, this #1 expert of the mortal world, the leader of the 8 great masters, how strong is he? His strength, I believe. I believe that he is definitely not below you or me. Ma Jiangming first used an uncertain belief, but then he felt that it was not accurate, so he changed his tone to one of certainty. However, this person's temperament has always been aloof. He only likes to travel around and have no interest in the struggles of the world. But his personal strength has already reached the realm of saints. If he has that beast pet of his, then even we will lose without a doubt. Chapter 522. Ma Jiangming was startled. Then he suddenly slapped his thigh and exclaimed, Why didn't I think of that? Not bad, not bad. That's right. The two of them had been conversing in secret, but now he was so excited that he had actually shouted out loud. This had attracted everyone's attention. Silence. Ning Wuqing's stern voice rang out. Now, you should be able to imagine the benefits of having a pet beast, right? Yunbi Chun is a mere junior, but after having a pet beast, his strength has increased by leaps and bounds. In fact, he has even surpassed us. This is the biggest benefit. That's right. At our level, it is indeed difficult to find a worthy opponent. So, it is as difficult as ascending to the heavens if we want to reach the next level. But if we have a pet beast of comparable strength, it will be a completely different story. Even if it is a little weaker, it will be enough to compare with us every day and improve together. Not only will it be able to break through quickly, but it will also be able to quickly overcome bottlenecks. At that time, it will not only be a matter of doubling our strength. The more Ma Jiangming spoke, the more excited he became. So, we might as well put aside our personal grudges for now. Let's deal with the shame of Tian Fa first. That way, we will have a much higher chance of winning in the war for seizing the heavens. You must know that bringing a pet beast in a battle is not counted in the number of participants. Ning Wuqing smiled sinisterly and said, Our palace lord has this intention. This time, the reason why this old man personally came here is because of this matter. The first benefit is that after we get rid of Tian Fa, only our 3 holy lands will be left. At that time, all the glory will be ours. Moreover, we will be able to wash away the shame of our ancestors who used the strength of beasts to protect the continent for the past 10,000 years. The second benefit is that we will be able to obtain a strong pet beast, and our own strength will also greatly improve. Ma Jiangming touched his chin and smiled. His eyes were full of longing. Even if we don't do well, we will still be able to obtain a Xian Dan. That is a good thing. There is also a third benefit. Ning Wuqing clasped his hand behind his back and said, The Jun family and Tian Fa must have a great relationship. That mysterious alchemist, do you understand? This is called pull one hair and the whole body moves. After saying that, he let out a long sigh. It's a pity for June Moxie. That young man's way of doing things is to my liking. Today, I have the intention of appreciating talent, but for the sake of the common people and the future, I have no choice but to do so. It's a sacrifice, so be it. If that's the case, wouldn't I be able to produce an endless supply of godly pills in the future? Ma Jiangming had just taken a godly pill, and his mind was currently at its peak. Humph. That's why I said that you have no foresight. Is this the only type of divine pill you have? Ning Wuching had a profound look in his eyes as he slowly said, as far as I know, the aristocratic hall has already auctioned 3 kinds of miraculous pills. Moreover, old Ma, if you can only refine these 3 kinds of pills, won't you leave one behind? Therefore, there would definitely be a 4th or even a 5th. Furthermore, the ones that hadn't been revealed yet, the more precious they were. Even if it's immortality, it's not impossible. Ma Jiangming's body trembled. His deathly pale face slowly turned red, and took a long time for it to recede. His eyes emitted an extremely greedy light. Old Ning, there's no need to say anything. I'll go back and report this matter to the city lord. I'll strive to make it happen. The cucumber will be cold by the time you get back. Our empress has already sent a letter to your city lord. This matter is still being discussed, but the results will probably be out by the time you get back. Ning Wuching's eyes lit up, but the breakthrough point lies with the June family no matter what. Or it should be said that it lies with that woman surnamed May. Moreover, I reckon that this woman is the strongest link in the June family. Everything else will fall into place as long as we can break through from here. That's right. Ma Jiangming nodded heavily. Moreover, I'm almost certain that this woman is a Xian beast in human form. Ning Wuching's complexion turned gloomy as he said in a heavy tone, Brother Ma, this woman doesn't look more than 20 years old from her appearance. How can she have such a high Xian technique if she isn't a Xian beast in human form? Even you and I aren't a match for her. You must know that there are miraculous medicines in this world that can increase one's Xian techniques. However, there are certain conditions for their usage. It's impossible to raise one's Xian cultivation to Tian Xian or even Shun Xian, but there's always a chance. But have you ever seen anyone raise their cultivation to the great master level? Moreover, where would you find so many heavenly treasures? That's right. The strength of the great master level and above is tempered over a long period of time. How could it be possible? Ma Jiangming's eyes also lit up. Even if there are heavenly treasures that can increase one's cultivation by 10,000 years, it's impossible to increase one's experience at the same time. Brother Ning's words make sense. Only a Xian beast in human form would have this possibility. Therefore, I boldly conclude that this woman is a Xian beast. Moreover, it's very likely that she is Venerable Mei himself. Ning Wuching clenched his teeth and finally transmitted his voice to Ma Jiangming. What? Impossible. Ma Jiangming opened his eyes wide. Venerable Mei is a man. This is a well-known fact. That's not necessarily true. Ning Wuching snorted. No one has ever seen Venerable Mei's true appearance ever since he made his debut. So, it's very difficult to guess whether he's a man or a woman. Even the top 10 experts weren't able to force him to reveal his true form. However, he may not be a man. In fact, I even hope that they're the same person. Why do you say that? Ma Jiangming was somewhat surprised. That Venerable Mei's strength isn't inferior to the palace lords. In fact, the Beast Kings under his command have been progressing very slowly in recent years. In fact, none of them have been able to surpass the Great Master level. However, this Mei girl's strength is unfathomable. In fact, she's at least stronger than you and me. So, we'll have to reevaluate the strength of the Tian Fa lineage if she's not Venerable Mei himself. And I'm afraid that the grand plan we've drawn up will have some changes. Ma Jiangming remained silent as he pondered. Moreover, this is a very good opportunity. He may have escaped from the last ambush, but we still managed to inflict serious injuries on him. he may not be able to recover even after many years. At the very least, he's almost as strong as he was when he was at his peak. So, he won't be able to recover without years of recuperation. Therefore, his Xian cultivation may not be comparable to the Palace Lord's. But we can't be careless. Therefore, we must be extremely cautious if we're going to act this time. We must make sure that nothing goes wrong. Moreover, the news must be strictly sealed. We mustn't beat the grass and alert the enemy. The top 10 experts didn't manage to take his life last time. So, we must dispatch at least 30 experts this time. Ning Wuqing took a deep breath. 10 experts from each of the 3 holy lands. 30 experts above the Great Master level must be killed in one strike. We must leave no room for luck. That's right. The illusory ocean of blood has also become enemies with them this time. So, I'm sure that the illusory ocean of blood will be very proactive if we act. Ma Jiangming laughed in a strange manner. Old Ning, we've been fighting for 200 years. I didn't think that we'd have to cooperate in the end. It won't be too late for us to continue our fight after this matter is over. Ning Wuqing Langlang said, or we can set our goal at the war for seizing the heavens. Whoever kills the most strange races will be the winner. What do you think? That's a wonderful plan. Ma Jiangming laughed heartily. The afternoon auction is about to begin. Let's go and get the other pill first. Ning Wuqing smiled. His face was calm as he walked out. His every movement was as smooth as the floating clouds and flowing water. Yes, I'll go to the Tianxiang city to meet someone after this matter is over. Ma Jiangming nodded and followed him out. Who? Ning Wuqing seemed very interested as he asked. Well, it's Lei Wu Bei's disciple. He'll be recommended to the Great Golden City as a candidate to watch the next war for seizing the heavens. This old man will personally train him if he's suitable. Then, I'll recommend him to the lord of the city. Ma Jiangming's voice was still gloomy as he sighed. The strange races can't be completely annihilated. Our people can't cross the Pillar of Heaven's mountains. The decisive battle that happens once every 500 years is very difficult to predict. Our generation may win, but who knows what will happen in the next 500 years? Ning Wuqing was silent for a moment. Then, he said, we'll do our best and leave the rest to the heavens. Who in this world can be so thorough? As long as we do our best, it's fine. As for the future generations, we'll leave it to the heavens. Has Lei Wu Bei joined your great golden city? No, but Lei Wu Bei will join soon. He has a deep relationship with the golden city, so he won't be too far away. Ma Jiangming laughed in a strange manner. Damn it, I've become a hero by following you. Ning Wuqing snorted. He walked out first and didn't speak again. They walked out of the hall and made 2 turns. Jun Moxie's calm face sank after he confirmed that he had lost sight of the people behind him. Mei Shuiyan's elegant face had turned pale at this moment. It was hard to tell what she was thinking. Jun Moxie pulled her tightly. They turned a few more times and arrived at Tang Yuan's room. Then he stretched out his hand and pressed on a certain part of the wall. A creaking sound was heard, and an entrance suddenly appeared on the wall. The door opened, and a large amount of light shot out. The luminous pearls inside lit up one by one like neon lights. It was a very magical scene. Mei Shuiyan didn't understand what was going on. She wasn't in the mood to appreciate this magical scene. She only knew that she was following Jun Moxie all the way. At the same time they entered, the door to the secret chamber quietly closed. Jun Moxie's complexion turned dark and bright under the illumination of the luminous pearls. He looked extremely unsightly. They're suspecting you. Jun Moxie's complexion was very unsightly. In fact, it seemed as if it had turned green. Yes. Mei Shuiyan was startled when she heard this. What are they suspecting? Chapter 523. Doubt? Convinced? They have always been suspicious. What's so strange about that? I really don't know why they doubt me. And what do they know about me? Mei Shuiyan faintly lowered her eyelids. Doubt? Convinced? They have always been suspicious. What's so strange about that? I really don't know why they doubt me, and what do they know about me? Mei Shuyan faintly lowered her eyelids. There are no absolutes in this world. Anything is no longer mysterious once there are clues. You really shouldn't have rushed to make a move today. I could have handled it. In fact, it might have been better if I had handled it myself. You shouldn't have even made a move during the Battle of Auras. Jun Moxie sighed. If you had made a move, they would have locked onto you. And the Jun family is still young and inexperienced. So, how can they withstand the storms of the three holy lands? Mei Shuyan faintly said. Jun Moxie had already guessed it, but hearing her say it now, he couldn't help but feel touched. He softened his voice and said, "That's not necessarily the case. I will naturally restrain the effects of my own martial arts. At most, it will be a draw. However, when you make a move, you will bear all the danger on your own body. You are so young, but you have such an imposing aura." With one palm, Shun Xian, a level 3 expert, immediately ran away. If you were a human, there would be no explanation. The only explanation is Tian Fa. But in Tian Fa, there are not many people with such strength. Venerable Mei is the most suspicious one. Mei Shuyan smiled sweetly and said, "Don't you have any doubts?" "No, I have never doubted." Jun Moxie snorted and said, "Because I have already confirmed it." "What is there to doubt?" "What did you confirm?" Mei Shuyan's eyes widened. Jun Moxie remained silent for a while. He didn't speak for a long time. Then, he suddenly turned around like a whirlwind. His pair of sword-like eyes glared at Jun Moxie. "Venerable Mei, Master Mei, how long do you plan to hide this from me?" "But how did you know I—" Mei Shuyan's brain short-circuited as she asked with her eyes wide open. "What's so hard to guess? I've known since the time you spanked me outside the city." Jun Moxie snorted, his expression still ugly. Jun Moxie, have never been spanked by anyone in my entire life. Not to mention, it was twice so ruthlessly. His face was swollen. This feeling was exactly the same for both times. Moreover, both of you have used the heaven and earth cage. Can that thing be used by just anyone? If I still don't know, then I'm really stupid. The most important thing is, even though you've restored your female body and used the fragrance of rouge, your body's fragrance can't be covered. Even though it's very faint, it's enough. Jun Moxie said leisurely. "I forgot to tell you this. Actually, I'm very sensitive to smell. Especially enemies or women. Since you know, why are you still pretending?" Mei Shuyan stared at him. Gradually, a layer of anger appeared on her face. "Are you kidding me? Are you very happy?" "Kidding you? Happy? Are you that fun?" Jun Moxie snorted. "I'm not as boring as you think." He walked up step by step until he was very close to Mei Shuyan. Both of them could feel each other's breath. Jun Moxie stared at her and said in a low voice, "You have to believe me." Looking at Jun Moxie's fiery eyes and feeling his warm breath on her face, Mei Shuyan actually felt a little flustered. Every time this kind of mentality arose, she would feel strange. She thought about how she had the all-seeing divine skill and the cultivation of a superior supreme. How could she be afraid of a small Tian Xian peak? Why would she be afraid of a human? And it was the kind of fear that came from her bones. How could it be? Finally, she couldn't help but take 2 steps back. Her face was flushed. She pretended to be calm and arrogant as she braced herself and said, "I'll believe you. Why are you showing such a face? Are you trying to scare me? Now, I'm not going to talk to you about the disguise. Now, let me finish what I have to say." Jun Moxie was angry and amused at the same time. "They ganged up on you before, right? Did he injure you severely before?" Mei Shuyan bit her lips and tilted her head to one side. She nodded lightly. This silly girl. Jun Moxie was instantly infuriated. "Then why are you still hoping that they will work together with you to deal with the war for seizing the heavens? You're about to lose your life, and you're still thinking about this. Working together with the enemy who wants to kill you? Do you not have a brain? Or is there mold in your brain? What do you want me to say about you?" Jun Moxie was furious. The more he spoke, the angrier he got. Regardless of what he could or could not say, he spilled everything out. "How they want to treat me is an internal matter of the continent. But once it involves the war for seizing the heavens, it concerns the future of the continent. Although I, Mei Xuan, am a Xian beast, I will not disregard the lives of millions of people because of personal grudges. Mei Xian sighed and said, even if I'm the only one in the world who has such intentions, I've already tried my best. I only hope that I have a clear conscience. But they might not. Jun Moxie laughed angrily. Asking a tiger for its skin, that's really stupid. Jun Moxie really wanted to say, what does the lives of the world have to do with you? But thinking that it might cause a huge commotion, he decided not to say it out loud. Everyone has a bottom line, and I will naturally not sit and wait for death. Mei Xuyan smiled and raised her head, looking at Jun Moxie gently. Don't worry. Furthermore, this is the responsibility that the Saint King has given me. I have to take it. But the problem is that I'm not at ease. How can I be at ease? Jun Moxie furrowed his brows. Ning Wuqing's last words are full of suspicion. This kind of person, once they start suspecting, they will definitely take action. And it will definitely be a big action. The first time they sent out their top 10 experts, they did not manage to stop you. This time, their lineup will definitely be even bigger. The consequences will be dire. Jun Moxie took 2 steps and snorted. If it were me, I would also take action. With my strength, it won't be that easy for them to kill me. Mei Xuyan snorted coldly. If that's the case, I definitely won't mind going on a killing spree. Right now, the safest place for you is your base camp, Tian Fa Forest. Jun Moxie took 2 steps and said solemnly, once this matter is over, return to Tian Fa immediately. I will make use of the time to speed up the refinement of the divine pills. Once all the pills are refined, immediately bring them back to increase Tian Fa's strength. Only then will you have the capability to fight. We'll talk about it when the time comes. Mei Xuyan sighed softly and said in her heart, you fool, how can I leave at this time? What will you do if I leave? The auction in the afternoon was even livelier and more lively. But there were no shocking scenes. Everything was the same as in the morning. Apart from the liveliness, the speed of the auction was much faster. The only implication was that when the elusive world of immortals and the great golden city said that they wanted an extra portion, it still caused an instant silence. However, not many people felt that it was unfair. In this world where the fist was bigger, the 2 holy lands were already giving face by not buying a few more portions. In fact, it could even be said that they only wanted 1 more portion, which was already out of the expectations of the big families that were participating in the auction. There were a total of 50 portions of medicinal pills. The big families had originally estimated that the 3 holy lands would take at least 10 portions. Now that they had taken 5 portions, it was already a pleasant surprise for the big families. Jun Moxie naturally did not stand on ceremony. He directly sold the 2 additional portions at the highest price of 1, for million taels of gold. Then he continued the auction. It was obvious that although Hermitage and Supreme Golden City did not care about such worldly things like gold and silver, the sky-high price of 1 for million taels of gold still made them feel a lot of pain. Even Ning Wuqing's face twitched when the transaction was completed. However, Jun Moxie did not care at all. To him, the existence of the so-called 3 holy lands was basically his hidden enemy. Not for anything else, but once they could determine the greatest value of these medicinal pills, they would definitely become his enemy. There would be no room for negotiation and no need for a reason. Therefore, from the moment they arrived, Jun Moxie already had the thought that he could not coexist with them, because he would never sacrifice his freedom to become an alchemist from the 3 holy lands. However, the 3 holy lands were determined to get their hands on this mysterious alchemist. It could be seen from the fact that the 3 holy lands had sent people to participate in this auction at the same time. In the past 1,000 years, the 3 holy lands had never appeared for the so-called worldly affairs. As long as they appeared, it meant that they were determined. Therefore, Jun Moxie did not need to consider their attitude at all. He could think whatever he wanted and do whatever he wanted. Could it be that you want to eat my bird? Are the three holy lands that powerful? How powerful can you be? If you are really that powerful, why don't you cross over and show me? You don't have that ability, right? Since I am the only transmigrator in this world, then I am the main character, fully deserving of being the main character. Jun Moxie twitched his mouth, raised the hammer, and continued to control the atmosphere. He was busy until the sky turned dark. All 50 sets of medicinal pills were finally auctioned off. The result of this auction and the amount of gold that was auctioned off made Jun Dashao's hair stand on end. 68 million taels. That was 3,400 tons. Gold. Oh my god. Jun Mo Xie hadn't panicked when he'd raised the hammer. He played it down with a calm demeanor. However, Jun Mo Xie's majestic body couldn't help but sway when he heard the final result. In fact, he had almost fainted from shock. Chapter 524. Today's breakout. The second update has arrived. He arrived at the warehouse. This was a huge warehouse meticulously built by the money addict Fatty Tang. It was located 3 meters below the aristocratic hall and didn't have a specific measurement of its area. In any case, it looked like a large black field. Tang Yuan's lifelong dream was to fill this place with silver. He had once said, "If one day I fill this place with silver, then I, Tang Yuan, will really be able to go to the underworld with a smile." Fatty Tang hadn't expected that his dream of going to the underworld with a smile would come true so quickly. Moreover, it wasn't filled with silver, but with gold. Fatty was going crazy. Jun Moxie didn't see the black field when he arrived. Instead, he saw a dazzling sight of gold and jade. There weren't many lights, but this place had turned into a world of gold. Or perhaps it was a towering golden mountain. It was too dazzling. This spectacular scene made Jun Moxie's eyes glitter with a golden light. It was as if he had cultivated his Xian Qi to the gold Xian level. A strange sound that sounded like crying and laughing came from afar. Then, a tall and sturdy figure dashed out from the depths of the treasury. He roared as he flitted past Jun Moxie's eyes, as if he hadn't seen him at all. Then, he dashed around the golden mountain, and then another. It was hard for him to run so fast with his thick legs. The one running was the money addict Tang Yuan. Fatty Tang waved his hands in a frenzy. Spittle splashed from the corner of his mouth in all directions. He was sweating profusely. His eyes were opened wide in terror as he shouted at the top of his lungs, "Gene Z! So much gold! Mother of asterisk her, I'm the one who earned it. It's all mine. Gold! Damn it! I'm rich. I'm really rich." In such a short span of a day, the incomparably huge Fatty Tang had unexpectedly lost weight. It was very obvious he had actually lost weight several times in a short period of time. The weight loss effect could be said to be exceptionally remarkable, but his mental state seemed to be somewhat abnormal. Throughout the day and night, Fatty was in a highly concentrated state. At first, he still remembered to take a few bites of pig trotters to replenish his nutrition, but later on, he did not even have time to drink water. Even when someone reminded him to drink water, he was impatiently scolded by him. It was a waste of money. His eyes were filled with gold, his hands were filled with gold, and his body was filled with gold. This could not be filled, not because there was not enough gold, but because there was too much gold. Even if there were dozens of Fatty, he could still bury them all. It was said that counting money would cause one's hands to cramp up, but Fatty Tang's whole body was spasming from counting money. His entire body was drenched in sweat. According to eyewitnesses, young Master Tang's robes were completely covered in salt and alkali rings. All in all, Tang Yuan couldn't help but fall into Jun Dashao's trap. On this day, he willingly overdrew himself in times. According to incomplete statistics, Tang Yuan's weight loss today was at least 25 kilograms. What a frightening number it was. Finally, as Tang Yuan sang and danced past Jun Moxie again, but he still ignored him. Finally, Jun Moxie shouted, "Tang Yuan." Fatty Tang turned a deaf ear to Fatty Tang's words and continued to walk around his golden mountain. Jun Moxie was quick to react. He grabbed a big piece of fat from the back of Tang Yuan's head and dragged it to his side, as if he was carrying a huge sack. Then, he threw it on the ground. His hands were full. This time, it was not the feeling of fat, but sweat. A lot of sweat. Tang Yuan's eyes were blurred and fanatical. He panted for a long time. As he stopped exercising, sweat poured out from his head and body like melting snow. Looking at the amount of sweat, Jun Moxie was shocked. If he sweated like this, he would probably be dehydrated or even die. But this guy, Tang Yuan, had been sweating like this for almost an entire day, and he could still practice a 100-meter sprint here. He really had to admire this guy's fat. It was really thick. Sweat poured out, and Tang Yuan's consciousness gradually returned. Finally, his eyes regained focus. Shaking his head, he asked in confusion, "Third young master, why do you have 3 heads? What kind of kung fu is this? It's amazing." His voice was so hoarse that it couldn't be heard. Jun Moxie was speechless. This guy was sweating so much that he felt a little dizzy. It seemed that he had to help him replenish some water. Losing weight was a good thing, but if he wanted to lose a lot of weight, then, unexpectedly, Tang Yuan suddenly jumped up and grabbed Jun Moxie's shoulder. With unknown strength, he lifted Jun Dashao up and shook him back and forth in the air like a scarecrow. He yelled crazily, "Waha! Third young master, I love you. I love you more than anyone else in the world. I love you so much. We're rich this time, la 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 la. Damn it, Tang Yuan, have such a day." Jun Mo Xie was fluttering in the air like a piece of paper. He felt dizzy as he listened to Fatty's declaration of love. He felt like he was being showered with spittle. He was battered and exhausted, and finally couldn't bear the burden. He flew into a rage and roared, "Fatty, you damn fat rabbit, put me down right now." Jun Mo Xie didn't dare to forcibly struggle out of Tang Yuan's grasp. After all, Tang Yuan's body had clearly been overdrawn to a dangerous state. Moreover, this guy's mind was still in a state of extreme excitement. In fact, Jun Mo Xie didn't doubt that Tang Yuan's arms would have been torn off if he were to fall to the ground. Bang! Jun Moxie fell to the ground, but Fatty Tang had no choice but to stop his madness. He was completely exhausted and fell on his butt. Then, he completely lost consciousness. What happened? What happened? What happened? Sun Xiaomei rushed in a panic. What happened? He's exhausted and fainted. This money addict. Jun Moxie didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How did he lose so much weight all of a sudden? Sun Xiaomei cried out in pain. Isn't this too fast? Can his body take it? Jun Moxie looked and saw Tang Yuan lying on the ground. His face was almost visible. He couldn't help but be shocked. The effect was simply too obvious. "Miss Sun, you should send Fatty back first. I'm afraid he still won't feel like eating for the next few days. Don't worry, it's because he's too tired and hungry today. He probably won't have any appetite for 5 to 6 days. And this period of time is when he really loses weight. If he's thirsty, drink some water. If he's hungry, eat some vegetarian food. Don't let him eat meat. He can't touch any of it. He can't stand greasy food now. Before he returns to normal, I'll give him an unforgettable slimming treatment." Jun Moxie laughed weirdly. How about not losing weight for now? Who can bear losing so much weight in one day? Actually, a Yuan looks better with a chubby face. Sun Xiaomei said hesitantly. Tang Yuan's weight loss today was too much. Sun Xiaomei was a little scared. A fat husband was better than a dead husband. Idiot. If you're so indecisive and let him get fat, he'll die. Being too fat is also a serious illness. Jun Moxie was furious. He shouted, "If you can't bear it, I'll be the bad guy. Come, help carry Fatty away. No one is allowed to visit him without my order. Even if it was his father, mother, or wife, he wouldn't be able to do it. Song Shang, you'll be in charge of him. If he eats even a little bit of oil these days, I'll skin you alive." He stormed out the door in a huff. Sun Xiaomei looked sadly at Jun Moxie's back as he left. She whispered, "Why is this person so heartless? He just lit a fire." She squatted down and caressed Tang Yuan's face. She said softly with a heartache, "Fatty, you must hold on. You should be fine if you don't eat meat for a few days." The fat man, who was in a coma, suddenly laughed foolishly. His hands were raised up high unconsciously. Saliva dripped down from the corner of his mouth. He suddenly roared, "Gold! So much gold! So many wives, concubines!" Wahaha! Sun Xiaomei stared blankly. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. Then she stood up and ferociously kicked Fatty's buttocks. She then walked out with an ashen face and shouted, "Come, watch him closely. Song Shang, I won't need the third young Master June's help if you give him too much oil. I'll skin you alive." Then she walked out in a rage. Song Shang chuckled as he walked in. He stroked his chin proudly. "Fatty, you've finally fallen into Uncle Song's hands. See how I'll deal with you. If I let you shit on my neck again, I'll serve you lavish food every day for the next few days. I won't let you touch it." As expected, Tang Yuan slept for 2 days. When he woke up, the first thing he did was to anxiously look for the latrine. After all, he had been holding back his food for 3 days. With Fatty's frightening appetite, who knew how much food he had stored up? When he returned, he fell on his bed. He was dizzy and had no appetite. He felt nauseous. On the first day, he only ate 2 small bowls of millet porridge. This greatly surprised Sun Xiaomei, who was secretly observing him. So what June Moxie said was actually true? Although Miss Sun was angry, she was still worried. So she hid in the dark and kept investigating. If Tang Yuan apologized to her, she would help him steal some food no matter what. However, Sun Xiaomei's intentions were destined to be in vain. Fatty Tang had offended her twice, but both times he was in a daze. He didn't even know what he had said. How could he apologize to her? The next day, Tang Yuan was still dispirited. He ate some appetizers, drank some millet porridge, and frowned at the sight of steamed buns. On the third day, Tang Yuan regained some of his energy. He wanted to eat. So, Song Shang carefully cooked a feast. Then, he and Hai Chan Feng gorged themselves in front of Tang Yuan. Fatty was so anxious that he scratched his ears and cheeks, jumping up and down. But how could the 2 Tian Xian experts let go of the opportunity to punish him so easily? With them guarding him, Fatty Tang jumped for a long time. But he couldn't even get a bone out of him. In a fit of anger, he went on a hunger strike for another day. Chapter 525. The 4th day was incredible. Tang Yuan looked at the doorpost and wanted to bite it. He had eaten 3 steam buns in the blink of an eye, but there was no more. There were a lot of vegetarian dishes. He could eat as much as he wanted, but this thing couldn't resist hunger. On the 5th day, Fatty inadvertently discovered that his big belly had shrunk a lot. He could even see the tips of his feet. He could even see the shape of his eyes on his face. They had been squeezed by his fat to the point where only a slit could be seen. But they were now visible. Tang Yuan was very excited. He immediately brought a large scale that was used to weigh pork. He stood on it, and 2 burly men lifted it up. And they were pleasantly surprised to find that his weight had gone down. He had reached a terrifying 530 kilograms 5 days ago. But he was only 370 kilograms now. It had only been 5 days, and it had actually dropped by 160 in one go. Tang Yuan was pleasantly surprised. This is too scary. Am I dreaming? I wouldn't even dare to dream of such a good thing. But an unexpected situation occurred while he was pleasantly surprised. 2 burly men suddenly appeared at the entrance of the aristocratic hall. They held long sabers in their hands. One of them pointed at Tang Yuan and shouted, "It's Fatty. Kill him." Tang Yuan was shocked. He didn't know what was going on. Could it be that the Huang family has hired assassins? So he turned around and ran. The 2 burly men were hot on his heels. Tang Yuan shouted for help as he ran. But the normally heavily guarded aristocratic hall was like an empty city at this time. Tang Yuan had no choice but to run around the courtyard of the aristocratic hall. The 2 burly men were also hot-headed. They were shouting and yelling at the top of their lungs. But they didn't know how to attack from 2 sides. They only knew how to chase after fatties, but their martial arts were probably very sloppy. So they couldn't catch up to him. Fatty's running speed wasn't very fast, but the 2 men behind him weren't very good either. They kept shouting and killing at a distance of 4 or 5 feet from him. One of the men chased a little closer and slashed down with his saber. The clothes on the back of the fatty were cut open, and even the fat on his back was cut open by the tip of the saber. Blood instantly flowed out, and it was a painful experience. Fatty screamed in pain. He ran even faster under the influence of the pain. His face was full of fear. Damn it, it turns out that it's really deadly. Oh my God! Under the fear of death, Tang Yuan ran even more desperately, and his speed became even faster. The two men behind him kept shouting and cursing. They wanted to extract the fat from Fatty's body and use it to light the sky lantern. From their cursing, Fatty found out that these two men were assassins hired by the Huang family to take revenge on him. This time, Fatty was so scared that 2 out of 3 souls escaped, and 5 out of 7 spirits escaped. Damn it, how good would it be if you wanted to settle accounts? I have plenty of gold. But this is for revenge. He wants my life. In his panic, Fatty began to run even more desperately. He knew his own situation, and Fatty was also aware of his own speed. He was afraid that if he stopped for even a moment, the 2 assassins would catch up to him. He didn't even dare to turn his head. He was panting and sweating profusely. His legs felt like lead, and his throat was like a bellows. But the 2 soul chaser envoys didn't stop. So, how could Fatty stop and wait to be slaughtered? So, he mustered his remaining courage and continued to run. Suddenly, he felt his whole body relax. His legs had inexplicably gained new strength. Tang Yuan was overjoyed. He continued to run with all his might. Jun Moxie, Hai Chen Feng, and Song Shang were squatting on the roof. The 3 of them were eating melon seeds with a smile on their faces. They weren't anxious at all. Suddenly, Jun Moxie said in astonishment, "How did Fatty suddenly break through his limit? This is too incredible." Hai Chen Feng and Song Shang were stunned. They didn't know what he was talking about. As Tang Yuan madly ran, he could only scream in panic and shout for help. However, no one came to help him. Therefore, he ran for his life again and again. He felt that his legs had run out of strength after running for a while. Then, he suddenly felt that he could run again. Then, he suddenly felt that he had run out of strength again. Then he could run again. This cycle repeated itself 7 or 8 times. Finally, there was a limit to one's strength. Fatty's energy was exhausted, and he fell to the ground. His limbs twitched for a while, and he almost vomited blood. He said in despair, "Do whatever you want. I admit defeat. Give me a quick death." After saying that, he directly fainted. The 2 men who had been chasing him threw their knives on the ground. Then they put their hands on their knees. Their tongues were hanging out as they gasped for air. They were gasping for air. "Young master, you've killed us." Who would have thought that this fat fatty could run so fast? But he didn't stop for an entire morning. My God, looking at the road, he was drenched in sweat. Jun Moxie snapped his fingers in satisfaction. He came in front of Fatty and carefully looked at him. Then he said with a smile, "It's done. He has returned to the state he was in 5 days ago. Do as I said. Continue to forbid him from eating meat. If he really can't do it, he can eat some Shaoyang pills. But remember, he can only eat 1 pill a day. Also, he can't eat more than 3 steamed buns in 1 meal. That's all." Tang Yuan slowly woke up. He was already on the bed. Beside him, Song Shang had a worried expression on his face. When he saw Tang Yuan wake up, he hastily said, "What happened?" "I only went out for a short while. How did such a big thing happen? Fortunately, I arrived in time. Otherwise, young Master Tang would have become a ghost under a knife. All the bodyguards died today. If anything happens to young Master Tang, all of you will be buried with him." Tang Yuan rejoiced. He weakly thanked Song Shang and drank a bowl of millet porridge. Then he continued to sleep. And so another 5 days passed. On the 10th day, Fatty finally felt a lot better. He remembered that he hadn't seen Sun Xiaomei for a long time. When he asked, he found out that she had returned home. So he went to the Sun residence to visit her. Who knew that when he arrived at the entrance of the Sun residence, he would run into a young man with oily hair and a powdered face. It turned out that he was a rival in love. It was said that he was also pursuing Sun Xiaomei. It must be said that after Sun Xiaomei's figure and appearance were cured, she could be said to be both talented and good-looking. She had many suitors. Even if they didn't line up from the South City to the North City, it was almost the same. When this powdered youth heard that this fatty in front of him was Tang Yuan, he immediately became furious. He ordered his subordinates to kill him. When the bodyguards that Tang Yuan brought along saw that the situation was not good, they scattered and ran for their lives. Only Tang Daxiao was left to face the knife and sword alone. Tang Yuan was completely dumbfounded. Damn it, why is it not over yet? There are people waiting to kill me everywhere. I can't help it. I have to run. So, Fatty turned around and ran for his life at full speed like a wild horse that had broken free of its reins. That young master did not let it go. He brazenly chased after Tang Yuan, Tang Daxiao, on the streets of the capital. His knife and sword were shining brightly, and his murderous aura was soaring. Speaking of which, it was strange that there was no intervention from the soldiers. There were no heroes who came to defend the injustice. As for those acquaintances of Fatty Tang, not a single one of them could be seen. Moreover, every family had closed their doors. Tang Yuan could only run along the street to another street, but it was still the same. At the end of the day, Tang Yuan had almost run through the entire street of Tianxiang City. Finally, he could not take it anymore. He collapsed on the ground, unable to get up. This time, he was in a better condition. He did not faint. At this critical moment, a righteous voice shouted, "Who dares to hurt young Master Tang? Men, come and kill him." This heavenly voice belonged to Hai Chanfeng. His savior had finally arrived. He was finally out of danger. Tang Yuan was so grateful that he almost shed tears. He is such a good man. How could I have been blinded by greed and used a chicken feather as an arrow to torment him? Then he heard a blood-curdling scream from behind him. The sound of swords and knives falling to the ground could be heard. Then he heard someone say, "This is a tough nut to crack. Everyone run." Then they disappeared without a trace. Hai Chanfeng carried Tang Yuan on his back. He did not feel that Fatty was heavy anymore. Poor Tang Daxiao was obviously on the verge of collapse after being dragged and frightened again. After returning, he was served with clear soup and millet porridge as usual. Tang Yuan wanted to cry, but had no tears. His eyes had turned green. In his own words, "This young master's intestines are thin from hunger. Can't you give me something delicious?" Another 5 days passed. Tang Yuan was weighed again. This time he was scared out of his wits. Damn it, 130 kilograms. From 530 kilograms to 230 kilograms. He had lost 150 kilograms in only 20 days. Fatty still looked somewhat bloated, but compared to before, he could be said to be like a jade tree in the wind. Under Jun Moxie's demonic torture, Tang Yuan had finally succeeded in losing weight. Moreover, it was a great success. No matter which world he went to, this kind of weight loss speed was unprecedented. It was definitely at the peak of perfection, a typical legend. If this happened on Earth, young Master Tang's name would definitely be recorded in the Guinness World Records. In the words of one of his brothers, even if he had cancer, he wouldn't have lost so much weight. An average person would not have been able to bear it. But Tang Yuan's body had been strengthened by eating delicacies since childhood. His body was rich in gold. Moreover, every night when Jun Moxie saw that Tang Daxiao could not bear it, he would secretly use his spiritual energy to unblock his meridians and nourish his body. Therefore, Tang Daxiao would definitely be full of energy the next day. But this guy was kept in the dark. He could only lament his bad luck these few days. But now that he had lost weight, Fatty's appetite had also disappeared. After 20 days, he had gotten used to eating vegetables and tofu. He could not tolerate greasy food anymore. To Tang Yuan, this was truly a matter of endless agony. He obviously wanted to eat it, but once he ate it, he would feel sick of it. After swallowing it for a long time, his stomach could not take it anymore. So, Fatty clenched his teeth, stomped his feet, and announced with infinite grief and indignation, "From now on, I won't eat fatty meat anymore. At this point, it was officially announced that Tang Yuan had lost weight successfully. Chapter 526. Fatty was also a smart man. He quickly understood that all of this was obviously a ploy by Jun Moxie. In fact, there were many flaws in the previous incident, but there was no time to think about it in a matter of life and death. Fatty did not know whether to laugh or cry. He actually did not know whether to go forward to thank him or settle the score. Then, Jun Moxie carefully selected a martial technique and let Sun Xiaomei force Fatty to practice it. Fatty Tang's weight loss also caused a small joke. One day, he went back to the Tang family to take a look, but was stopped by the guards at the door and refused to let him in no matter what. I really don't recognize you. Jun Moxie deeply felt a huge pressure during this period of time. The three holy lands were like three irresistible mountains pressing down on his heart. Jun Moxie himself did not expect that organizing an auction to earn some money would actually attract such three giants. With the Jun family's current strength, it was undeniably a super family in the secular world, or even the world. But compared to the three holy lands, which were the pinnacle of power for tens of thousands of years, it was still far from enough. If the three holy lands were eagles and the ordinary families were chickens, then the Jun family was probably just a little higher than the ordinary families. If the three holy lands were really determined to destroy the current Jun family, then the Jun family's current seemingly tyrannical strength would not have any power to fight back. They could be destroyed in a single day. This kind of feeling of being on tenterhooks at any time and place made Jun Moxie very angry. But there was nothing he could do. At least for now, there was really nothing he could do. Since crossing over to this world, step by step, the overall strength of the Jun family had indeed undergone earth-shaking changes. From an ordinary official family, they had leaped several levels in one fell swoop to become the most powerful super family in the secular world. They even had relations with several great master-level powerhouses and had the backing of a powerful alliance like the Tian Fa Forest. At this point in life, they could already be said to be unstoppable in the secular world. With such achievements, Jun Moxie was not without pride. All of this was built by him. Everything had been smooth sailing, and Jun Mo Xie couldn't help but admire his own intelligence. This was the sense of accomplishment of creating something out of nothing and conquering a great empire with bare hands. But now, in the face of the impending crisis, this achievement was not even worth mentioning and could not withstand a single blow. Jun Moxie was not willing to be like this. His own fate, the fate of his family, was actually in someone else's hands. It was for self-protection and also for the anger in his heart. Therefore, during this period of time, Jun Moxie was practically risking his life. All the time, he was either in the Hongjun Pagoda concocting pills, cultivating, or running to the treasury to refine his blood of yellow flame. In 20 days, he had refined 3 batches of vitality linkage pills in one go, and he had also refined 2 batches of vitality congregation pills with 12 batches. As for heavenly vitality pills, mentioning this matter, tears streamed down Jun Moxie's face. In his heart, this heavenly vitality pill was the most difficult pill to refine out of the 3 great pills. But he had actually succeeded in one try. Moreover, there were 10 pills in one batch, and each pill was perfectly round and plump. All of them were high grade, and some were even of the highest grade. Jun Moxie finally fainted. So I was wrong. This was actually the easiest. It's a pity that I've always treated it as the most difficult mountain to conquer. I'm really speechless. The gloomy Jun Dashao refined 5 batches in one go, and actually succeeded in all of them. He only managed to chew on 1 pill, and fiercely chewed on it twice before he could vent his anger. But in this period of time, he had been constantly refining pills, constantly overdrawing his energy, and constantly recovering. The bottleneck of Jun Moxie's Tian Xian Peak had finally loosened. After taking that heavenly vitality pill, Jun Moxie had finally succeeded in raising his cultivation to Shun Xian's level. 50 years of pure energy had loosened any bottleneck. Jun Dashao had broken through the bottleneck. In for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound. So, he had also swallowed a soul-amassing pill. There was no harm in taking more of these pills, as long as one's cultivation was high enough. Moreover, Jun Dashao had the art of unlocking the heaven's fortune. So, it didn't seem that he couldn't bear it, or that his cultivation wasn't high enough. 20 days of hard work had finally come to an end. Apart from helping Tang Yuan lose weight, Jun Moxie would take the time to go home to take a look. But he would immediately return to the Hongjun Pagoda when he found that there wasn't any movement. So, he would immediately go back to the Hongjun Pagoda, and he would do it like a meteor shower. Bear Mountain and Earthcracker were very happy during this period of time. They spent their days in Tianxiang City and indulged in debauchery. Jun Moxie didn't have the slightest intention of driving them back. Instead, he tried his best to make them stay. He was waiting for the day when the pills were refined. He wanted them to improve their strength before leaving. Jun Moxie was almost certain that the two Beast Kings would encounter a powerful and deadly ambush when they returned. So, they would have more assurance in protecting their lives if they could improve their strength. Moreover, he would have to help Tiger King break through his bottleneck at the very least. Then, he would have enough strength to protect himself. The blood of Yellow Flame had also been tempered to the extreme under the continuous tempering of the power of gold. Jun Moxie had been in high spirits. In fact, he had even tempered the 9 swords that he had previously refined several times. And the amount of gold in the treasury had gone down by a whole pit. Fatty Tang would have cried out in distress if he had seen this. Prodigal, this is too prodigal. Millions of gold tails have vanished into thin air without a trace. Jun Moxie came out of the Hongjun Pagoda early in the morning. He took a bath and put on his snow-white clothes. Then, he walked towards Guan Qing Han's courtyard with the fruits of his labor in his bosom. Everyone had been anxiously waiting for this day. It was urgent, elegant fragrance courtyard. Don't say that only women go shopping like crazy. In fact, men who haven't gone shopping in their entire lives are the same, especially Bear Mountain and Earthcracker. How many times have they gone shopping? Therefore, even the craziest woman would have to concede defeat in their current state. They would buy whatever they saw and never haggle over the price. They would just take it and leave. The biggest advantage of a man is his straightforwardness. In fact, the main characters of the Tian Fa forest, Bear King and Tiger King, were bowing their heads as they were being reprimanded. These two Beast Kings had taken the gold and silver that Jun Moxie had given them. These days, the two Beast Kings had taken the gold and silver that Jun Moxie had given them. So, they had crazily plundered every big shop in the Tianxiang city. They had bought everything that was pleasing to the eye. They had bought everything that was expensive. And the amount of gold and silver notes they had bought had rapidly shrunk. But the things they had bought had increased with each passing day. In fact, the number of things they had bought had increased at the speed of a small hill. Mei Shuyan and Snake King had been concentrating on digesting the power of the vitality linkage pill these days. So, they didn't have the spare time to care about these trivial matters. So, they had inadvertently discovered that the Jun family's front yard had been piled up with a mountain of goods. The two Beast Kings were quite smart. They had placed all the things they had bought in the front yard, and they had kept them out of Mei Shuyan's line of sight. Mei Shuyan usually stayed in the elegant fragrance courtyard, so she wouldn't go out. So the two of them had thought that they would be able to escape this calamity by doing this. Then they would wait until they returned to the Tian Fa forest. So it was a pity that they had been discovered in the end. So the two of them hadn't even had the time to go out and continue their crazy shopping when they were stopped by Mei Shuyan. The two Beast Kings were paralyzed on the ground when Jun Moxie arrived. Their foreheads were covered in cold sweat. Their faces were trembling with fear. In fact, they didn't even dare to move. Qian Sun's Serpent Queen was watching them from the side. She was taking pleasure in their misfortune. She didn't feel the slightest bit of sympathy for them. It seemed very pleasing to watch these two gluttons get scolded. Guan Han pursed her lips and smiled on the side. This situation wasn't strange at all. After all, Mei Shuyan was going to sort these two out in 2 or 3 days. Guan Han had tried to persuade them out of kindness in the beginning, but she had come to know that these two were shameless, and couldn't be cooked properly. So, she naturally wasn't in the mood to try and persuade them. Who would be in a mood to plead for leniency on their behalf if they saw these two shameless, mischievous, and fawning people after they had been beaten up like crazy? Mei Shuyan's anger hadn't subsided yet. So, she grabbed a woman's silk robe and threw it on Earthcracker's body. Earthcracker, I wouldn't have pursued this matter if you had bought something useful. But I don't understand. There are only Xian beasts and wild beasts in the Tian Fa forest. So, why did you buy so many women's clothes? Are you going to wear them? Or are you going to wear them for your tigers? And this, you're out of your mind. Several large clothes were thrown on Earthcracker's body. A box was opened, and a fragrant aroma filled the air. It was a box of rouge and powder. Earthcracker's face was full of embarrassment. He kept saying, Mei Shuyan was furious. Why did you buy this nuisance? Do you want me to rub it on your fur? Huh? Earthcracker, you're really promising. You didn't buy anything except for a bunch of women's things. You even bought a bracelet, Suddenly, she became furious. What is this? For binding cloth? Earthcracker, who are you going to use these for? Earthcracker kept wiping his cold sweat. He didn't dare to speak. She kept glancing at Big Bear. Fourth elder brother, quickly say something. These are all things that you asked me to buy. You said that they were prepared for Big Sister's future palace, Maids I'm being wrongly accused, Please say something, Bear Mountain was squatting on the ground. He couldn't help but let out a ha-ha sound. His whole body twitched as he took pleasure in other people's misfortune. June Mo Xie, who was standing at the door, couldn't help but chuckle. What are you laughing at? You still have a face to laugh. Bear Mountain, you stupid bear. Look at the things you bought. Look at this, and this. Bear Mountain's body was suddenly covered with all kinds of things. Chapter 5:27. It's winter cold. Bear Mountain stammered. He was sweating profusely. Just now, he was grinning and laughing at the misfortune of others. Suddenly, he was scolded to his face. He was immediately dumbfounded, and his expression strangely stiffened. Cold, Mei Shuyan kicked Bear Mountain, and he rolled away. You hibernate every winter. You've been like this for thousands of years. Why are you cold? You're a bear, and you wear a coat made of bear skin? What are you thinking? You're too talented. You really think of yourself as a senior. You can only pretend to be like June Moxie. Aren't you ashamed? June Moxie was laughing at first, but he became depressed as he listened. Why are you talking about me? Didn't I just pretend to be stupid? I'm not really stupid. Why are you insulting me like this? Big Bear and Earthcracker had sullen expressions on their faces. They were completely speechless. That's right. Why did an old bear hibernate this year? Why is he alive and kicking? June Moxie saw that the two were in a sorry state. He couldn't run anymore. So, he simply changed the topic and tried to smooth things over. When did you come? Why do you have to do everything? He's the Bear King. What if he hibernates? I haven't said anything about you yet. Tell me, why did you give those two idiots so much money for no reason? Mei Shuyan rolled her eyes. She was about to say something when she saw his face full of pride. She couldn't help but ask, What's the matter? Why are you so happy? Mei Shuyan instantly thought that June Dashao might have succeeded in concocting pills. So, she couldn't help but speak with a hint of expectation. June Mo Xie took a big step forward and chuckled. Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. Shuiyin, you can count the number of people now. As long as there aren't too many people, there shouldn't be a problem. Mei Shuyan raised her eyebrows. How dare he call me by my name? But then she regained her composure. Could it be that the elixir has been successfully refined? She immediately forgot about settling the score with him. She rolled her eyes at him, curled her fingers, and silently counted in her heart. The eyes of Bear Mountain and Earthcracker lit up. They secretly gave a thumbs up to June Moxie. His progress is so fast. He's even calling him by his nickname now. He's worthy of being my brother-in-law. He actually had big sister under his thumb. The two Beast Kings looked at June Mosia with admiration in their eyes. What an amazing person. 10 places are enough. Mei Shuiyin closed her eyes and counted. She sighed and said, 10. Are you sure? Jun Moxie was very surprised. He thought that Mei Shuiyin would include the 9th level peak Xian beasts in the Tian Fa forest. He didn't expect that Mei Shuiyin would only ask for 10 places. I'm sure. Mei Shuiyin took a deep breath. 10 is a lot. One can't be too greedy. Those 9th level peak Xian beasts are only one step away from transforming. But how can everything be reaped without sowing? It would be more beneficial to the management of the Tian Fa forest if we simply increase the strength of the Beast Kings. As for the rest, I'll go back and slowly select them. Then we'll talk about it after I train them. It would be a headache if a few of them are wild and untamable. Jun Moxie clapped his hands in appreciation. Not bad, not bad. This is the right thing to do. Streamlined administration is exactly like this. Only when the current Beast Kings are completely above the other Xian beasts and establish absolute authority can we consider the future development without being hindered. Shuiyin, you are very thoughtful. He turned around and sat down. Then he took out a jade bottle from his bosom and placed it on the table. Suddenly, everyone's eyes were attracted to it. There are 5 vitality linkage pills in this bottle. Plus, you've already taken one. So, there are 10 pills in total. Jun Moxie said in a deep voice. However, I suggest that Tiger King, Bear King, and Snake King don't wait until they return to the Tian Fa forest. They should take them here. Then, you can protect them and help them improve. The sooner, the better. What do you think? Qian Sun has already taken one. But those two are very hot-tempered. Moreover, they don't think before doing things. What if their strength increases here and they go back to act like a tyrant? Wouldn't that make me seem inconsiderate? Mei Shuiyin glanced at Bear Mountain and Earthcracker from the corner of her eyes. She seemed somewhat worried. Big Bear and Earthcracker were overjoyed when they heard that they could eat pills that could enhance their martial power. Haha! Big Bear and Earthcracker were overjoyed when they heard Mei Shuiyan's words. And the faces of the two Beast Kings collapsed. Mei Shuiyin could be said to understand them very well. The two Beast Kings had just been thinking, I must let Old Crane and the others know how powerful I am after I improve my strength. But how could they have known that Mei Shuiyin would reject this idea before they could even finish their dream? Otherwise, how could Old Bear and Tiger King do such a thing even though they are straightforward by nature? Even if they had started a massacre at the gates of the Tianxiang city a few days ago, that unlucky second prince was blind and wanted to take the elixirs from them. As far as I know, they had started a massacre on their way from the Tianan city to the Tianxiang city. But they had never provoked anyone first. In fact, it was others who had provoked them first. Jun Moxie said in an awe-inspiring manner. So, I believe that they would never do such a thing. The two Beast Kings were completely moved. They looked at Jun Moxie with tears in their eyes. Brother-in-law is so good. You are our brother-in-law for life. We won't agree even if elder sister wants to change brother-in-law. They would at most beat up Long Crane, that's all. The two of them would never try to usurp the throne. Jun Mo-sia continued. The two Beast Kings fainted at the same time. Do we look like people who would try to usurp the throne? Moreover, don't tell me you didn't expect this. Their journey back to Tian Fa won't be as smooth as it was when they came here. Jun Moxie continued. His complexion had become very dignified. We must improve our strength as soon as possible. You must know that they might have to face the 3 Holy Lands on their way back. They can only protect themselves in a one-on-one fight with their current level of martial arts. So, they can forget about being besieged. This is life-saving. It's not child's play. Their lives will be in danger at every turn. And their strength will certainly be damaged, even if they are lucky enough to return to Tian Fa. Do you want them to end up like Lion King and Monkey King? Mei Shuiyan's complexion became heavy. She pondered for a moment and said, What do you think are the chances of them intercepting Old Bear and Tiger King? June Moxie smiled bitterly and said, "You know the answer, but you just don't want to believe it. So, there's at least an 80% chance of success. Are you willing to gamble with your brother's life, even if there's only a 50% chance?" Mei Shuiyan remained silent, but her eyes were faintly emitting anger. She said resolutely, "What you said makes sense. I was indeed inconsiderate before. So, let them finish their advancement here. Then, they can return to Tian Fa." June Moxie nodded and said, "That's right." Bear Mountain and Earthcracker were beside themselves with joy. I hadn't expected that elder sister would admit that she was inconsiderate. Brother-in-law is brilliant. You've won this opportunity with just a few words. Wow, when has elder sister ever changed her mind in Tian Fa? Brother-in-law is a high-level expert. Brother-in-law, dear brother-in-law, we are so adorable to you. The two Beast Kings almost shouted out their last words, but they managed to restrain themselves with great difficulty. As for the possibility of interceptions along the way, the two Beast Kings didn't take it too seriously since they were naturally belligerent. The two Beast Kings have been fighting nonstop since they were young. In fact, it could be said that fighting had become part of their nature. So what if they have experts from the three Holy Lands? We don't know how many times we've walked through life and death situations in our lives. So, how can interception take our lives? Especially Bear Mountain, who had made a breakthrough in his strength. So, he wanted to test how high his current strength was and how much progress he had made. Intercept us? Puffed. This is a big joke. Hurry up and intercept us. We want to see who will take whose life. Elephant Lion 6 and Monkey 7 are the same. Their strength was just at the beginning. They were still a long way from the peak of the Beast King level. Moreover, they were ambushed by the four great masters. So, they were unfortunately defeated. We've been at the peak of the Beast King level for a long time. So, we'll have an astonishing growth if we can make a breakthrough this time. Then, we won't pay any attention even if a real expert intercepts us on the way. Mei Shuiyan thought for a moment and said, "Let's not touch the 5 new pills for now. We'll distribute them after we return to the Tian Fa forest. Take the pills I have here first." She took out a jade bottle from her bosom and poured out 3 pills from it. One of them was put into the jade bottle that June Moxie had placed on the table, making a total of 6 pills. Snake King had already taken 1. So, Mei Shuiyan only had 3 left. Just as she was about to let the two Beast Kings take them, she heard June Moxie say, "Wait." Everyone looked at him in surprise. He took out another jade bottle from his bosom and chuckled. "These are heavenly vitality pills. There are a total of 10 of them. Each pill can increase one's pure internal energy by 50 years. Each person can only take 1 pill. I think you should take 1 first and increase your internal energy by a certain amount. Then, you can take the vitality linkage pill to increase your speed. That's the most effective way. Maybe you'll get twice the result with half the effort." Mei Shuiyan exclaimed softly. Her body was trembling slightly. 1 heavenly vitality pill could increase one's pure internal energy by 50 years. The value of these 2 pills was obvious. But June Moxie didn't hesitate to take them out. For the past few days, June Moxie had been missing. He must have been working hard for these pills. And all of this was for her own safety. He was worried about her. All of a sudden, Mei Shuiyan felt a strong sense of happiness and satisfaction for being cared for and loved by someone. This kind of feeling in her life, this kind of feeling had never appeared before. Moreover, her Xian Qi was peerless, and she could roam the world unhindered. Who could give her such an opportunity? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.